Coming to you from high atop our studios in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're listening to Tech Move. This is episode 36. In today's show, we introduce a brand new segment called Lunch with Rod. We talk APS-C sensors, as well as Sigma and Metabones adapters. And we say bon voyage to Keith as we send him to NAB 2017 representing Tech Move and what he expects to see and hear. I'm Rod Louie, and with me is Keith Moreau. Get ready. It's time for another exciting episode of Tech Move. Let's go! Thank you very much, Doc Severinsen and the band. It is Rod Louie.
Wait a second, that's a pretty obscure reference.
Is it?
I'm very doubtful that any of our listeners will even know what that means.
I guess it really should be more like who are some of those guys? Like the Roots for joining us. But anyway, okay, I won't.
I think
say
it'd be
that.
like Sheila E. Thanks, Sheila E. I mean, that's a little bit more modern, but not quite. Even then, we're going to lose lots of people.
You know what? I'll just call them the band. How about that?
Okay.
I got a perfect thing. Okay, so shall we end that and then start again? Yeah, because I can delete that.
No, we don't need to delete it. We could just keep
Okay.
going.
Here we go. Okay, go ahead and give us the count off.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, record.
I want to thank the orchestra from the Tech Move podcast.
The Tech Move Podcast Orchestra.
Right. I want to use that. Okay, that's what it is. The Tech Move Podcast Orchestra. Tech Move Orchestra. Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, record.
All right, and that is the great stylings of the Tech Move Orchestra. I don't know. All right, hey everyone, it's Rod Louie. You're listening to Tech Move Podcast, and as always, I am joined by the ultra fantastic Keith Moreau. Keith, how are you today?
Orchestral. The orchestral Keith Moreau.
Our band leader, Keith Moreau, of this merry little band here. Keith, how are you today?
I'm okay.
Fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
How about you?
I'm still breathing, so that's all right. Keith, I wanted to open up the show today and kind of share this great brainstorm that you and I had together as we were talking in one of our many production meetings that we have. And, we kind of came up with this thing. Maybe you and I should record not only in the same room, but how about remotely? How about a remote recording? And I thought that was an absolute spectacular idea that we both came up with because, number one, you have the equipment. And number two, I didn't have any other time otherwise, so it worked out fantastic. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, but Tech Move is not my primary source of income, even though it does generate zillions and zillions of dollars for us. I actually have to have a 9-to-5 job, and the 9-to-5 job that I have is down in the Silicon Valley of California. Mm-hmm. Those of you who are familiar with that area. And Keith happened to be in that area, and he kind of let me know that he was nearby. So he said, hey, why don't we do a remote recording of Tech Move? I said, sure, why not? That sounds fantastic. I've got a pretty nice cafeteria at my workplace. Why don't you meet me there and let's hook up some mics and let's start recording. What the heck?
Yeah.
And Keith, I think we both agreed that the segment that we're going to introduce to you today is a brand new segment that we might be doing in the future. Depends on, I don't know if it was any good or not. But nonetheless, it's called Lunch with Rod, starring Keith Moreau. So, Keith, what did you think about Lunch with Rod?
I thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure about the lunch itself. It was okay.
Right.
But the company was great. We got to go over a lot of stuff. We got to attract a lot of unwanted attention.
Yes.
And almost got you fired, but that's fine,
And
I think we talked our way out of it.
Well, and the thing about it is that, the funny thing is that how we gained a lot of unwanted attention might have been because when I stood up in the middle of the cafeteria, flapping my arms like a chicken. So,
oh yeah, that was it.
That was probably it.
But you do that every day.
Thank you. But you know what was really great was that actually not only was it Lunch with Rod, but it was also Keith Moreau show and tell. Because Keith brought some really fantastic pieces of equipment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as referenced in the last episode of Tech Move, Rod Louie is in a quandary. He is torn right now between the purchase of a Sony A6500 or what Keith Moreau has ruined me with, which is the announcement of the new GH5. These two cameras are very highly touted right now, especially for someone like myself, who doesn't need something like an A7R2, A7S2, or anything like that. A6500, right in my wheelhouse. GH5, right in my wheelhouse. I've already got lenses, the A6500. I have to change a whole new system. So Keith was good enough to kind of bring, all these different examples of the Micro Four Thirds stuff as well as the APS-C stuff. And boy, was it eye-opening. I mean, Keith, thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. It was fun bringing some stuff down and showing you how these things physically felt and looked and acted. And I enjoyed it.
I think that's exactly what it did. I was able to kind of hold it in my hand and not just look at the pictures on Amazon or B&H or Adorama or anything like that, but actually kind of hold this stuff. And we'll kind of talk about that maybe after the actual Lunch with Rod segment. But very, very enlightening, very educational. And again, thank you for packing up the entire studio to bring it to the South Bay. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, it was actually really easy. It's one of the setups I use for recording recording people. I call them body mics.
Yes.
And I have a couple little they're basically dictation recorders. They're about $150. They're called they're actually kind of old. I don't think they're made anymore, but there's replacements for them. But they're Olympus and they're 16-bit recorders. They're 16-bit 48 kilohertz recorders. And they take little 1/8-inch jacks, and which pretty much all even professional little lavalier microphones have as an output. And you just plug those in, and they power the mics. And I tape them together a little bit to keep them more secure. And then we just kind of carried them around or put them in our pockets or whatever with us. We had them just clipped to our collars or whatever. And and those are the mics I use to record people live when I'm recording video. So I get a really good recording of their voices while I'm filming them, usually in documentary type settings. So so that was pretty darn easy because that's what I always use.
Very unobtrusive, very easy to use, and I actually found, in observing you kind of engineering the thing, seemed like it was relatively easy to kind of check, levels, whether or not we were too distorted or whatever. I haven't heard the final product yet, but I'm going to guess that was pretty decent.
It was pretty decent. I think there were a couple little parts where it clipped slightly.
Yeah.
Because we started out kind of talking low and wound up talking a little bit louder, but it's not a big deal.
Especially when we went into that conference room. I would imagine that
Yeah.
that was probably a little bit louder. It's enclosed booth kind of feel to
I think
it.
so. I think so. But overall, the recording I think was good, and it gave you good ambience. So hopefully, people understand that it was in a live setting on a cafeteria, and there were kind of people around and a little bit of background noise, and at least for the first part of it. But I think there's enough info where people shopping for either a GH4 or 5 or a A6500 would get a pretty good, a little bit better idea of what they might be interested in.
Well, and I think most also what would be helpful is people like me who are just so wishy-washy and finicky about where to dump their dough on which one to get. I mean, I'm still honestly pretty torn right now. And you know, we'll go through that through the ending segment of the show. But you know, hey, why don't we get to the segment right now? Let's go to this new feature that we have, and then we'll come back and talk about the thing afterwards. What do you say to that?
Sounds good.
Fantastic. Okay, so here's a brand new segment that we'd like to introduce to you. It's called Lunch with Rod, and it does star Keith Moreau. And this is something that, you know, maybe we'll catch on for future episodes to come. But right now, here's our first installment, and you're listening to it right here on Tech Move.
The best vestibule, bistro, whatever that is.
Did you want some mango salsa for your fish?
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, thank you very much.
How you doing there?
Doing good.
Hi.
Good. I think these
I'm
two
just gonna
things
put this
together.
on here.
Okay, you're fine.
This is a soda water.
Okay. And that's just a cheeseburger with fries?
That's correct. Here are plastic utensils, or if you
I'll
prefer
just take the metal one.
real silverware,
Yeah, the real.
which I would here.
Thank you. Real ones are great.
I agree.
So we're now in kind of one of the corners of Rodney's private cafeteria.
Moving out chairs and making all this ambient noise.
Yeah, normally, and we're near some Venetian blinds, which actually are providing a little bit of acoustic baffling.
I'm gonna have to leave on my jacket because the recorder is attached to it,
No,
even
it's
though I could take it out.
No, it's actually attached to your sweater.
I know. No,
Oh,
I was
you mean-
talking
oh, you
about
just put
this
it on the
thing.
table.
I'll just put it on the table.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right.
That way you can kind of monitor it.
Should I introduce this segment right now, or?
I think we already have.
Oh, we already
No,
did.
it's the really long teaser that a lot of shows have before the actual title.
This is that
credits.
but behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, this is
that
behind-
behind.
Yeah. This is behind the scenes before
Right.
the actual episode.
Right.
So this should give our fans
A real
treat.
distinctive edge to what Tech Move is all about.
edge. I think
Okay.
Edge is important.
Okay, I'm gonna introduce the show now.
Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the Tech Move world, we are bringing to you a brand new segment that we just invented today. What you are listening to right now is a new segment we'd like to introduce to you as Lunch with Rod, and it features Keith Moreau.
Yeah, I'm the first guest.
You're the first guest.
There might be other guests.
There could be other guests, but I really
Yeah.
doubt it.
I think we're gonna have Donald Trump next week.
That's right. That's right. But
Or shall I say, as of today, President Trump.
President Trump. That's right. So, just to explain to our listening audience out there, I'm at my 9 to 5 job right now.
Wait, you
and
have a job?
I do actually have a job. I can't make it like you in the video world, where I actually have to supplement my income by actually having a real job.
That's okay.
We're right now eating in my cafeteria here in San Jose, California. And I have with me my special guest, the always incredible, intuitive, the
Intuitive. Wait a second.
thought-provoking Keith Moreau here. Keith, thank you for joining me at lunchtime here.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's
great.
fantastic.
I happen to be down here
Oh, it's
on another little shoot gig thing, and
Great.
Decided to visit you and show you some of the lenses and products that you might be purchasing in the next couple months.
And this is very important because since our last segment of recording, I've become more and more confused as we go on.
And that was my aim.
And that was your aim because I know what it was, because the reports on the Panasonic GH5 have been stellar.
Yes.
It has just absolutely been stellar. I mean, like, people are just talking about this thing. Like, they're actually I listened to another podcast on the way here. Some guy is kind of like, it's not exactly gonna replace the Epic. Not really at that level.
Wait a second. What podcast was this?
Actually, I have it here. Here, I'll show you. And that's not what he's saying, but it's pretty darn good.
Hey, I got my order in.
Here, did you really?
No, but I am.
You're going to.
I'm gonna buy it.
So,
It's a no-brainer.
Keith, and as we do this this recording right now, I don't know if we want to give anyone any type of juice or not, but this is the
Well, Modern Cinematographer, no.
right modern cinematographer.
I actually listened to that one.
And that particular episode is quite good because the guy,
Let me see, what date is it?
January 11.
Yeah, I actually listened to this one.
Okay.
So I like that guy's name is Matt Workman.
Okay.
The podcaster. He's actually a cinematographer.
Yeah.
But he originally, I think actually he'd be a good candidate for Tech Move because he's a really fun guy. And you know what? He doesn't sound like it. He's actually Chinese,
Really?
I think, or he's Asian or something. Yeah. I've been listening to him for like years because he's had this thing on for a couple of years, and it was like, oh, okay, this kind of guy, he sounds. And then I saw him because he has a YouTube channel too.
Right.
And he's this Chinese guy. I don't know if he's Chinese. He might be Korean or some other.
And you know what?
Asian,
We're mentioning that, ladies and gentlemen, because both Keith and I share Chinese blood. So it's not a racist thing, and even though it's Trump's inauguration day and stuff like that, but it's just because, hey, fist in the air, Chinese power. So there's Asian power. There you go. Okay. So anyway, so I was listening to this, and the guy who you interviewed, Luke Newman, who apparently is a he was brought on by Panasonic as one of their early adopters to take a test of the GH5.
Right.
He did a movie, and I think he also made available his shoots to just folks like us to just try and color grade the 422.
Right. I think you're able to download the source video.
Right. And what I love about, this is on another note, this recording that we're doing, I don't know if you can tell that, ladies and gentlemen, my mouth is completely full of food right now.
Yeah. And if you order salmon from the Rod Louis cafeteria
Yes.
and you ask for medium,
Right. Check it.
it's a good thing
pretty
that
much
I
raw.
didn't ask for rare because it's basically half raw. But that's okay. I
Well-
like sushi.
They like to call it, you're right, it's sashimi, I think, actually.
Oh, sashimi. Sorry.
Well, that's good. Anyway, so I'm eating. So anyway, this guy, Luke, he did some of that stuff. Put it out there flat. You know, everyone can mess around, color grade it themselves and stuff like that.
And you recorded with Vlog.
I think he recorded it with Vlog. And
And this is all pre-production cameras too, right?
correct,
So
pre-production.
it's probably going to be even better than this eventually.
And guys say, they use arias, they use reds, all this kind of stuff. Of course, we're not talking about replacing those items. But as far as a $2,000 4K camera, 60 frames per second, 422 color space,
10
Man.
bit. 10 bit.
10 bit. I mean, they are talking that this thing is really going to be the thing.
It's just such a bargain.
Right.
It's
In
like-
camera.
There's no, it's the first, I think we mentioned this, but it's the first 422 10-bit internal recording camera. And also, it can record at a really high bit rate.
Right.
And I think it uses H.265 for some of the recording, which means that it just can put a lot more information for you can put a lot more quality for the same amount of recording space on your card, which I think is really innovative.
So I think one of the things that we're trying to accomplish here by having this new segment of Lunch with Rod is that Keith has actually been so kind to come down here to San Jose, California, where I am, and bring his small inventory of equipment to show me.
Yeah, I brought some of the lenses that Rod was thinking of. Rod's really thinking about the Sigma 18 to 35,
Yep.
which is a classic lens, beautiful lens. I use it all the time. I just used it like two days ago on a 5-hour shoot with my A7R2. Personally, I think the image with that lens and the A7R2 is better than my FS5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the FS5 is good because it's got everything built into it, and it's got built-in electronic ND, and it's got XLRs and all that. So for an all-purpose camera, like to bring to documentary gigs or interviews, that I don't need superlative quality. Excuse me. There's going to be burping in this podcast too. It's great, but if I want to get really small and not to be too obtrusive, A7R2 and this Sigma adapter, and then the 18 to 35 is my go-to lens right now. Because you can get wide enough. 18 millimeters is wide enough for getting fairly close to somebody, but still getting a significant portion of them. And then 35 is not bad when you're on an APS-C sensor. So it's a pretty good combo.
And that is what I'm kind of made what I have in my head. You know, just to review. I'm sure this will probably be earlier on in the podcast in another segment. The thought is the Sigma Art, 1.8, which you're just mentioning, the Sigma MC11 adapter, and a Sony A6500.
That was the original thought.
That's the original thought.
And you were so hot at it that earlier this week, you sent me a Craigslist ad for somebody selling a used 18 to 35.
Yep. And of course, because I dilly-dallied and I didn't act fast enough, it was sold.
Right.
Which is okay because, I've seen other ones that are kind of in that same price, maybe, 600 here and there, whatever it is.
Now, is it worth it to you to actually get a used lens without a warranty to save only a couple $100s? Or maybe really only like $150? Because you're probably gonna need the dock. The dock is like $60. 50 to $60. So
Right.
The dock, but for those who don't know, the Sigma lens is only upgradable or firmware updatable through this dock. So it's basically just got like an EF mount, female mount, and you slide the 35 in and connect it to your computer.
Now that brings a very interesting question because you're right. Do I need that? And Rod Louie, always in his cheapness
Yes.
and his money-saving schemes, would like to say, yes, I don't care about the warranty. I don't care about this or, whatever, just to save $1.
Right.
But with this new revelation, because I didn't know it needed the dock.
Right. Well, it's not a necessity.
Right.
And actually,
But
if you
certainly
wanted to,
helps.
if you wanted to, sometime I could come down and bring my dock, because basically I'm at your beck and call.
Right.
And I will. Like Sigma comes out with a firmware upgrade that's going to greatly improve the performance.
Yeah.
Keith, can you drive down here with your dock so I can upgrade my lens? Sure, Rod. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'll be there in an hour.
But it is true. I mean, like, maybe it is more. Here's my thought. Correct or not correct? You as a professional are selling gear all the time.
Kind of.
You're selling bodies left and right. You know, when the next one comes out, who's not to say that the person is the same thing?
Yeah, but it also, but also you don't know what that product's been through.
Correct.
And you don't
Absolutely.
And you don't really know why they're selling it.
Right.
You might think they might be selling it because it's something wrong with it. Like there's some intermittent issue. You know, and that happens a lot. Or people return stuff. You know, like for example, I got this Tamron, kind of expensive Tamron lens. It's normally like $1,500.
Right.
And it always kind of had some kind of weird focusing issue. Like it would sometimes just stop focusing.
Okay.
But then I could just like unscrew it and put it back in, and it would be okay. And then after a while, it just didn't work after a while. And I got this refurbished. And so what I suspect is it had this issue. It got sent back to the factory. They checked it out, and the time they checked it out for 5 minutes, it didn't mess up. So they put it on the refurbished rack. There's nothing wrong with this. Let's sell it. And I got a good deal. Luckily, I got a warranty with it.
Right.
You know, but when you buy something used, like some guy that you don't know with no warranty,
Yeah.
that's always an issue for me.
So then, what have you? And you know, and folks, we're just having this nice that's why it's lunch with Rod, because it's just conversation, right? So when you sell stuff, or when you buy stuff, you've bought used equipment before, or never have. It's always been new. You always wanted the warranty.
I usually don't buy stuff that's used from like eBay, unless it's something mechanical that's just bulletproof. There's very, very few times that I bought used stuff off of Craigslist. I don't think I've ever bought camera stuff off Craigslist. I don't think I've even sold. I don't usually sell through Craigslist either, because
Who do you sell through?
I usually sell through eBay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because it's I've done it for so long. I think I have a 400 or 500 transactions on eBay, which is crazy.
Right.
Probably about half of them are buying stuff, and half are selling stuff. But it's kind of like, first of all, you can kind of see the person's rating. People that buy stuff, if they have a good experience, you get a high rating.
True.
And so, and as a seller, I have a high rating, so people will tend to buy from me. Oh, this guy, look at his reviews. He sold this other piece. Somebody gave him a high rating. He's trustable. He's going to sell good stuff.
Right.
And vice versa. So, but you don't necessarily have that with Craigslist. I don't think you do, right? It's just like
Correct.
some guy
Nope.
is selling it, and that's it.
Oh, this is a classified ad,
Yeah.
and you're answering it, and you're,
Right.
you know, that's why so many people get murdered,
Right.
you know, selling cars or whatever it is.
Do they?
I mean, there have been.
Yeah.
You
Because
know.
they have a lot of cash with them, and they're going to
Yeah,
some
right. I
location.
mean, like,
Yeah.
you know, some people are looking at cars,
Right.
you know, conk them over the head, you know, and run away with the car and their money, you know. So, sure.
Yeah. And Craigslist, it attracts people that are kind of cheap.
Yeah.
That are trying to get-
Thank you.
Well, sorry. I mean, to the sellers, right? Because does it cost anything?
It's free.
Yeah, it doesn't even cost anything, which is crazy. Like, how can they even run a business that way? But yeah. So
Yeah, there are give and take for sure.
yeah. So I probably, unless I really, you know what? I actually did buy something off Craigslist. I have this really large weighted piano controller, a
Okay.
Yamaha.
Okay.
It's like a grand piano, but just the keyboard part of it. But it feels awesome. It
Uh-huh.
feels like a real piano.
Okay.
And I'd always loved this thing. And it's like 20 years. I mean, the thing was probably manufactured 25 years ago, back when MIDI first came out.
Right.
And I just love that thing because I played it in some studios and stuff. And I'm going to get one of those. And so one day I was just searching on Craigslist, and the thing is normally like $3,000 or something. It's crazy when you buy it new. And it was like $400 with all this extra stuff.
Right.
You know, so I said, "Oh, I'm gonna get this." So I drove down there and I bought it, and he had extra stands and pedals, and I got an amazing deal. You know, and that was pretty cool because it's kind of a mechanical thing.
But you're able to try it.
I was
there,
able to
too.
try it. We actually played some stuff through it. And
Right.
And that kind of stuff is built like a tank. There's
Right.
not a whole lot that can go
Correct.
wrong with it, and it's obvious if it is. So, but that's
And it's true, you know, like what you're talking about is the thing, though you might take it to gigs every once in a while. I mean, you're putting it in a car, you're driving it there, you're setting it up on the stand, you're playing it, you're putting it back in the car. Whereas with a lens, hey, you're taking it on, you're taking it off, you're dropping it, you're putting it, you know, who knows if it's in a case or it's floating in the back seat somewhere, rolling back.
Yeah.
That is something to consider.
who knows if it's been dropped in water and
That's true.
dried out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So whatever.
That is true. Well, you know, I mean, you know, maybe that's a great sign that it got sold before I could get there.
Yeah, I just kind of think that I feel like you were saving maybe $150,
Right.
and you weren't not going to get a warranty.
Right.
And if you change your mind and you decide, like you just looked at my lens right now and you said, "Wow,
Yes.
this is actually kind of heavy and big."
Right. Correct.
And I've been kind of
Correct.
mentioning that to you. It's
Right.
a lot heavier and bigger than a
Yes.
lot of lenses.
Yes.
And so, well, you go to this Craigslist guy, and you're kind of like forced to buy something, right? In a way, you feel obligated. To.
I mean, I personally would not.
You
But
personally wouldn't.
You know, I mean, I don't mind running out of the room screaming like a 5-year-old girl or something like
As
that.
the guy's about ready
as
to
the
remove
guy's
your kidney.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly correct. I mean, you know, this is very true. But you know, that is something to consider. I mean, like, you know, maybe you're right. I mean, you're right. $150, but you know, to someone like me, $150 is $150, right? Because $150 gets me that adapter, right? So that's the way I look at. I always look at things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I save this money now, I could get that adapter, no problem, right? Because it's all wrapped up into the thing. Because as we talked before, my outlay price, my MSRP from what we had talked about was about $2,800. A6500, Sigma MC11 adapter, and a Sigma 18 to 35 1.8. Totals roughly $2,800.
Right.
You know, I cut a couple corners here, a couple of corners here. I'm down to $2,600.
Got a couple corners, run over a couple people, sell a couple kidneys.
That's
I'm
what.
down to 2,500.
I think they do give you a fairly good buyback rate for blood donations, do they not? So like
Some people live off that.
I could do that. I just got to eat a lot of oranges. That's all. But it's true. I think what you bring up is a very good point. I mean, there's nothing better than new, or at least buying it from someone that you know.
Yeah. So here's what I would suggest.
Go ahead.
You may consider going to Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and here's what's really cool. Go to Amazon, because I've actually bought a lot of used stuff off Amazon.
Now, hang on, Keith. Do you mean techmovepodcast.com/Amazon?
Yes.
Remember that, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way we do things around here.
Product placement. Perfectly placed. Pardon me while I sip my Diet Coke.
Please
It doesn't work so well in radio. You have to narrate the product placement. But anyway. Yeah, so what I've done a lot, actually just the other day, I bought a used DJI Ronin remote control.
Oh, okay.
So there's this thumb controller where you can actually change where the gimbal's pointed up and down, etc. And it's really tiny. It's like this big.
Okay.
And it normally goes for like $160.
Okay.
I got it used off of Amazon warehouse deals
Oh, okay.
for $80.
Really?
Yeah. So I've been almost half price. I got it. It's pretty much new.
Really?
Pretty much new, functions perfectly. And if there was something wrong with it, after up to a month, I could return it.
So it's still under the Amazon umbrella
Yes.
of returnability, refund, all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff
Anything
under their
that's-
guarantee or something.
Right.
like
Anything that's prime
Uh-huh.
can be returned in that 30 days.
that. Excellent.
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah.
I'll look there.
Yeah. So I've
I'll
bought.
look there. That sounds good.
I mean, I buy stuff all the time. I probably bought dozens of things that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is under that umbrella of that 30-day return warranty.
Okay.
And so
That's a good
yeah,
that's a good thought.
Check it out.
That's
And you
a
get
good
the
thought.
free shipping. You know.
I did notice that you had sent me a link, and I don't know if I acknowledged it or not, but I did see that there was I think it was Adorama who was selling the Sigma lens with the dock
Yeah.
at the MSRP of $799,
Yeah.
which it's pretty much you're buying the lens and then you get the dock thrown in with it,
Yeah.
or something, which is pretty good.
That's a pretty good deal.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal. I did see that.
Yeah.
And it did spark my interest,
Yeah.
but
So that was that would be essentially like buying the lens for $750 or
Right.
something like that.
that's correct.
And so that's only like $100 or so below your
Right.
Craigslist price. And you don't have to drive anywhere.
Right, exactly, and meet some strange man in his home. No, who knows? What kind of tying instruments this guy's got on?
I want to tell you a horror story.
Go ahead, please.
So this was back, I think it was back before the internet and Craigslist.
Okay.
But I really wanted it was some kind of dot matrix printer. This was back in the old days when
Sure.
Printers were either dot matrix
Yep.
or they were kind of like Selectric typewriters that you connected. So there was this Brother printer that was letter quality or whatever.
Right.
But it was on Divisadero Street.
Okay.
So I showed up there
In San Francisco.
In San Francisco, yeah.
Right.
And that busy street. And
Yep.
It's kind of like not the best neighborhood back then. Now it's better.
Yeah.
But so I went in there, and the guy advertised. I called him. He said, "Yeah, come on over." And so sounded like a nice person. I walked up the steps to the door. The door was slightly ajar, and I knocked. I knocked on the door. Knock, knock, and he said, "Hello, I'm here to buy the printer, the Brother printer." And no answer. I heard some sound, like music.
Right.
So I thought, and the thing was, it sounded to me like it was like a retailer, like it was a store.
Okay.
It didn't seem like it was some guy's house.
Right.
So I kind of just gently pushed the door open. Hello, I'm here for the printer. Hello, and I wind up in this living room of this person. And then this guy comes out in this towel.
That's my biggest fear.
And he
in the
starts going, "What the?" And he starts swearing at me and saying, "What the hell are you with more expletives doing in
right.
my house?"
Really?
Yeah. And I said, "I'm sorry, I'm here for the printer. Get out now! Get out now! Get out!"
Uh-huh.
And so I have no idea if it was the wrong house
Wow.
or if it was just this guy and he was a nut, he wasn't expecting me, or he just forgot. Anyway, I got out of there quickly.
And moral of the story, you didn't get the Brother printer.
I did not get the Brother printer. and
That's too bad.
But I did get out with my life.
Good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Wow. Well, see, and that's what life on Craigslist is very much like. It's very much like that. It's not really too different than that. It's not too different. It's about the same thing.
Have you bought this stuff on Craigslist?
I have, actually. I have bought stuff. Like I bought a.
So,
this is great. More people are sitting behind us, which is they're going to start
Noisy.
talking.
We can move because we're almost done with our stuff, right?
Yeah.
We can move. Well, let me gather all my
Get all your stuff
3,000
together.
things here.
Right.
Pardon the interruption.
No. Well, I'll continue to talk. Okay. So when I bought a DJ mixer a number of years ago.
Wait. Was it the Vestac?
Right. It was the
Vestac
Vestax
3000?
The Vestax PMC 05 Mark II.
Oh, the 05 Mark II. That's classic.
It's classic. It's a classic DJ mixer. I bought it for like $150 or something like that from a guy. Oh, yeah, I bought a lot of stuff from a guy. We met at a parking lot. Went great. Worked great. Everything was fine. And here's another thing. My wife had lost her purse, and in it was her. I'm sorry, she didn't lose her. She had her purse stolen at a restaurant when she wasn't paying attention. Her iPhone 4 S had gotten stolen.
Okay.
Way back when.
Uh-huh.
Found one on on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Called up the guy. He said, clean ESN.
Uh-huh.
You can run it if you want. Here it is. Blah blah blah. Looked good.
Yeah.
Bought it from him.
Yeah.
We used it for another year.
And it turned out to be her phone.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
It's perfect. She got her own phone back.
We found it, and it only cost us another $150 or whatever it did. It was absolutely terrific. We were going to move to a different location here,
Yes.
as to not be interrupted, so we can pull out some of our gear here.
Yeah, even though this is the Rodney Louis.
Even though this
Cafeteria.
is well, because I'm such a great human being here. Would you like your soda
Yes.
water? I'm such a great human being. I'm letting others enjoy my cafeteria. So let me put this away. I think it's over on the other
So
side.
just to let people know what we're doing, we're walking around the cafeteria. We're
Yes.
going to be disposing of our trays and plates.
Yes.
We're putting them in the right area.
Well,
Rodney
well,
knows where to put them.
I know where I'm going. I'm an experienced veteran because I did design my own cafeteria. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're
We're now
walking-
exiting the
Yes.
Rod Louis cafeteria.
the Rod Louis Memorial
I was going to
Cafeteria.
say that, but
Right. Is that?
wind
Look,
noise.
You know what's so great? I mean, there's probably wind noise, but it's very quiet out here.
It's very quiet.
Very quiet. But we'll go this way here.
Okay.
So anyway, so I did buy that
The vest
Apple
stack.
a Vestax
Oh, yeah,
and an
and the
iPhone.
phone.
So I bought some pretty big things. But you know what? You're right. I mean, we're talking about a, potentially $800 lens here
Yeah.
that is very fragile to begin with.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I just need to. Stop crying and just buy a brand new one.
Yeah.
It's
And
probably
then if you have
probably
second
worth it.
thoughts, you could just send it back.
Or
Nobody's harmed.
or like we've discussed before, lenses are one of those things that never really.
Loses value.
You're right.
Yeah.
So, unless you break them, which
Unless
is
you-
why these sold them for $560. Right.
Unless they've been exposed to some unknown problem,
Right.
unknown stimulus.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's very interesting. Again, you've confused me completely. So now I will.
That's pretty much my role in life, Rod, is to just
Well-
you've made a decision and then I challenge it
Well-
and confuse you and make you doubt yourself.
What's so excellent is that when I think of myself as not being very easily swayed into things, but that's obviously not the case. As you can see, they've erected a statue to me here
You're
in
like
our
this.
lobby.
What's that about?
Who knows? I don't even know.
It looks like a big statue of Bigfoot.
It's either that or I think it's Bigfoot or like some sort of like snow monster or something like that. I'm not going to take you to my floor. I'm going to take you to a different floor,
Okay.
which is hardly inhabited.
Good.
And
Let's do it.
it's where I usually take my naps. During,
I'd love to see your
during the
napping
day.
area.
Right,
at work.
my napping area. So,
It's where you hide.
exactly.
Perfect
Well,
acoustics.
we'll take this room here.
See how dead this area is? And
Yeah.
you could tell the audience could probably tell that this
No,
is a really well acoustically
And,
treated
and,
space.
and no ambient noise and
yeah.
stuff like
well,
that.
at least out
right?
there was. In here, there's a little more.
You think so?
Yeah, that's okay though. Doesn't matter.
I think this worked well.
This is good.
So I'll sit here for a little bit here. And, I think what I'd like to do is kind of take a look at some
Yeah.
of the equipment.
So I have a small Tamarack bag. It's mostly for DSLRs, and I probably got it like 10 years ago. But it's a really great bag. It's actually got a little waterproof pouch, that holds a pouch that holds some waterproof covering, which I didn't bring with me, even though it's raining today.
Fantastic.
Because it hasn't rained in California for like 25 years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden this
all
winter,
of a sudden, the last week and a half or so, it's been raining like
like crazy.
we
Oh.
haven't believed.
Last night I was just I basically have been up since like 4 a.m.
Oh, because it woke you up?
Yeah, because of thunder and lightning, and Friday is garbage day, so we put all our garbage cans out.
Oh,
And
right.
So and I thought I heard, I think it was just the lightning, but I thought I heard the garbage cans like rolling all over the street and opening up and dumping garbage all over everything and hitting my cars. But that wasn't. I went out there and they were just all sitting there peacefully. So it was weird.
It's just the tree snapping in half.
It could have been. It was. I don't know what that noise was. It was the thunder, I guess.
I mean, just the wind and the rain and the amount of rain was incredible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Anyway.
That's good.
Okay, so I'm opening the bag and we've got a bunch of different stuff in here. What I did was I brought Rod the Sigma lens that he's in love with.
Yes.
Well, from afar.
I am in love with this from afar. And ladies and gentlemen, I am holding the Sigma Art Lens 18 to 35 millimeter 1.8. And this is the first time that I've actually seen it live and in person. It's pretty darn heavy. It's really darn heavy. I mean, this is way heavier than like the GH1, what is that, 18 to 70 mil that came with it. You remember that one?
Yeah.
It was so long ago.
Yeah, downstairs. Well, I brought you for reference. Compare the whole GH4 and a lens that's pretty much equivalent to this one to that one.
Oh yeah. I would say probably the GH4 fully equipped with a 12 to 35 lens on it probably feels about the same as the Sigma alone.
Yeah.
Probably feels like the Sigma alone.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the dimensions side by side, see how much bigger the Sigma is than the actual camera. If you just put the base of it to the end of the camera, it's actually longer than the whole camera with the lens.
Yes, this the Panasonic 12 to 35 is essentially double the size in almost length, almost.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. This is the adapter part, so it'd be like.
But you have to have that adapter.
Yeah, you have to have the adapter, right?
Unless you get a Sony lens.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring you some native lenses. So I brought a few. So this is an example of what you might, if you wanted to get check this lens out.
Okay. Seems lighter.
Do you think this is lighter than this?
This one seems lighter, a little bit.
I think this one's slightly heavier.
Is it?
Yeah, I have to bring my scale. They're close.
They're pretty close.
They're close.
So Keith has just put in my hands the Canon 24 mil. This is that go-to one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the 24 millimeter that I really love. The 24 1.4 Canon L lens.
And this also has a Metabones adapter on it,
Yep.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, that's got the Metabone speed booster. So I was actually using that on my FS5. So I was kind of getting the equivalent of the widest range on the Sigma.
Okay.
And so if you put a speed booster on a 24, you wind up with an 18.
Okay. That's pretty. And how does that 24 work with the speed booster? Pretty
Great,
well.
it looks really good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's maybe equivalent quality to this, maybe a little bit better. It's also faster, right?
What is the?
Because it's 1.4, so at the
This is
widest,
1.4.
at the largest aperture, it's 1.4. Then you put the speed booster,
Right.
it becomes like a 1.0. This can't be speed boosted.
Right. The Sigma cannot be speed boosted.
Unless you put it on the GH4.
Right.
And then
And have you tried that?
I actually don't think I've tried that lens with it, but I brought a speed booster for my GH4.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't have the super ultra speed booster.
Which is I think the Mark IV, right? That's the one that everyone's.
Yeah, I think I have an
Interested in.
earlier version before they made that, but we could try it out.
Okay.
So if you want, you can do the honors.
Sure.
So Rod is actually taking the Metabone speed booster for the GH4, the Micro Four Thirds, and he's taking off the native micro four thirds lens, the 12 to 35. And
How fast is that one? Is it
it's
12 to
2.8. 2.8. So not well. It's pretty fast, but it's
2.8? Yeah, not bad.
But with the speed booster and the Sigma, you'd wind up with something pretty darn fast.
And then
You'd wind up with like a 1.4 with a speed booster and the Sigma, or something in that range. So you're gonna have to take off the Sigma.
oh, I have to take off the Sigma. Okay.
Yeah, because it's an EF adapter. So Rod's just taking off the Sigma.
Trying to figure out how to do that.
MC11.
Was that just click this thing here?
Yeah, just push up towards you.
Push up.
Towards you, I think. Let me see. Sorry, Rod. Oh, sorry, this one.
Little too difficult
Yeah.
here. I might not purchase this. It's too.
It requires a little lever push.
Sure about that?
So you go like that, and then you twist.
Oh, that seemed
Pull towards
embarrassingly easy. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so this guy right here. Is this supposed to be like that?
I think so. Did it click?
No, I didn't hear a click, but I think it is.
Okay.
So I'm powering up the GH4 right now with a Metabones speed booster and the Sigma Art 18 to 35.
Is it on?
No, is there batteries in this?
I hope there's batteries. Did I put a dead battery in?
Quite possible.
Sorry, Rod.
That's all right.
Okay, I guess we're not going to find out. We'll have to wait till next time.
Well, we'll have to wait to the next installment of Lunch with Rod.
Sorry, Rod. I just
all
took a fresh battery out of the charger. I didn't even turn on the camera.
That's all right.
Sorry about that.
It was a good effort, but
Anyway, but you could at least get the feel of it.
yeah, absolutely.
So this is what you could. This could be your alternative, right? So this is kind of like what you were thinking of getting from an optical point of view,
yeah.
but just on a micro four thirds body.
Right. So you know what, Keith? Here's one thing that here's what threw me is because everything that I've been listening to, other podcasts, other experts, and things like that, have been talking about is the fact that the GH5, the images, the video images are going to be tremendous, right? Well lit situation is going to be great. Probably the processor's a little bit better, like we talked about.
Than the GH4, yeah.
Than the GH4.
Yeah.
And, so that'll be good. What I am not hearing, though, is like how I want to use the camera, which is most likely stills and video.
Yeah,
combo.
as a hybrid.
Whereas I think most people are going to buy the GH5 are probably just going to use it for video only. Very rarely will they use the still functions. I mean, unless you're maybe using that burst mode that they wanted, that 6K.
I mean, it's a hybrid camera, and the stills are beautiful. I mean, I've shot professional photos on this camera
on the GH4
that are super sharp.
Really, and they just look great.
They look really, really good. They're very, very sharp. They're very, very sharp. I mean, maybe not as shallow depth of field as the larger sensors, but with this combo, you can start getting to the pretty shallow depth of field.
Right.
This is starting to emulate at least an APS-C sensor size right now. But now this combo is going to cost you. So you have the $800 for this.
Right. For the Sigma.
For the Sigma.
Right.
Then you have another $600 for the speed booster.
Right.
So already you're up to 14 there.
Right.
And then you have 2,000 for the body.
Right.
So
of
now
the
you're
GH5.
up to 34.
Yeah.
Now
Too
you're up
much.
to 34.
That's too much.
So you're $600 over your budget.
Yeah. Too much.
But you have a whole bunch of lenses already for your GH4.
I do.
So
And I don't have bad ones either. They're okay because I
Yeah.
have that was that the 24 mil or something like that? That's
It's a pretty fast one.
it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And you know, also the kit lenses that come with it were fairly decent.
Yeah. So
I know.
So you've got a little investment in those lenses, and you don't have those for the Sonys, and all the Sony lenses are going to cost you.
Right.
You know, even the least expensive Sony lens is still going to be, you know, $500 or around there.
Right.
That's worth getting.
Right. Exactly.
But anyway, so give you an idea there. Okay, so that's the kind of your lens from afar.
Right.
That you now see in your hands and see
Right.
how it is. But this is not light. I mean, this is not.
It's not light. No.
But this is going to be pretty much what your camera's going to be like.
Correct.
Either way.
Which, in
Either
all
way.
reality, is not. It doesn't seem much different than the GH1, right? So.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. It's a little bit bigger.
Right. I think, without a doubt, I think the hand grip on this GH4, which from what I understand is even a little bit bigger on the GH5,
Yeah.
is actually quite nice
Yeah,
here.
it's very ergonomic.
Better than the GH1.
Better than GH1 and
Yeah.
way better than the A6500.
Yeah.
The A6500 is much smaller than this ergonomically. I'm handing him the A7R2.
I am right now holding the A7R2 with an 18-105 G Master lens. Yeah. And I know the A6500 does not have this robust of a hand grip.
Right, it's smaller.
It's a little bit smaller,
more edgy.
although a little bit better than the 6300.
Is it?
From what I understand,
Okay.
it's better than the 6300, but not as good as the A7 series.
I'm just moving Rod's recorder so I can kind of monitor his level because I noticed that everything's just a little bit louder now.
That's because we're in a nice controlled environment now.
Yeah.
So
And Rod is speaking at his normal, boisterous level. In the cafeteria, he was a little intimidated.
I was shy in the cafeteria because I'm amongst my people there, so that's what it is. Yeah, I like this. You know, and have you read anything newer? Well, see, we're not really going to be able to tell until around March, April,
Yeah.
because GH5, we're talking about it not being ready for shipping till about that time.
Right.
So until we get that, until we get those production models out here, we're not going to know how good the ISO is going to be, how good the low light is going to be,
Right.
so on and so forth. So still jury's out on
Still,
that.
jury's out, and haven't seen a lot of low light, really great low light demos.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would like to see more stills. Because when the 6500 came out, the Sony A6500 came out, and they invited all those folks to different events, indoor concert, outdoor rodeo, action, basketball games, so on and so forth. Those stills really look terrific. Nice and sharp,
Yep.
really, really great.
Yep.
I wish they would do that with the GH5 and show us what that can do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
In various
I think they're still.
environments.
I think they're still kind of tweaking it a little bit. I think the A6500 has a similar
It does.
flip out LCD.
It does, which is just a tilt.
And which is really lame. But it's okay.
Yeah.
You get used to it. You really kind of so the difference between the GH series and the A7 or the A series is that the LCD is fully articulatable on the GH.
Right.
Which it makes it really convenient for different angles.
And in my mind, ever since the GH1, that was one of the greatest features of the thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know Canon copied them after that, right? Because
Yeah.
for a while, the screens were not fully articulating.
Right.
It was very much like the Sony's,
Right.
correct?
Well,
Or it didn't even move.
It didn't even move, and even still on the highest end ones, they don't move.
Even now?
Yeah, even now. The only ones that move are the lower end Canons. So I guess they figure that pros don't need articulating screens. Pros are beyond that.
It's beneath them, even though that's what everyone wants, right? That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I still think though, APS-C sensor is going to outperform Micro Four Thirds. I still think that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think that for my usage of combo, and when I say combo, I'll say I probably shoot 50% stills, 50% video.
Yeah.
I think the Sony is still looking pretty good for me.
It is. Now here's the thing.
Oh no.
Let's put this combo back together. That's your dream combo.
Okay.
Well, actually, no. I'm gonna just show you. Let's try to do a little focusing because the focusing system on the A7R2 is pretty similar to the 6500.
Correct.
The 65 might be even better.
Okay.
But it's similar.
Okay.
So we're gonna turn this on, and I'm just gonna put the ISO to auto on my A7R2. Okay. We have a press focus, so you can point at things and press focus and see how well. Now this is the native Sony lens. It's just the kind of kit lens that came with my FS5. It's the 180105.
Oop.
That's okay. So Rodney's just kind of moving, focusing on different things and seeing how fast it focuses.
Oops.
And basically, when the little box is green, it means it's focused. Now, this is an important thing for Rod because he wants his autofocus performance to be really good.
Although it's not. So when I did, unlike the GH series, the halfway depressed to get that seems to be better on the GH series.
It could be.
This one seems like I'm pretty much. That's
it's
why
too
I'm taking.
sensitive.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm taking all these pictures.
Yeah. There's other buttons you can use for that.
You can. Okay.
Yeah. I just don't have them set up that way, but you can. Yeah, I have this set up for video mostly.
Okay.
So I go between manual and autofocus with this little button
Yeah.
right here. I go.
It's
in
almost like
there.
your function button.
Yeah. So when you see the red peaking, it means it's in manual focus. But the problem is that Sony lenses don't manually focus very well. At least this particular one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got that idea.
it,
So we're
yeah.
going to turn off the A7R2,
Okay.
and then we're going to replace it with the combo, the Sigma and the Sigma combo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn it off. We're going to take things apart. We're going to put the Sigma back on here. Rodney's actually practicing putting together one of his choices of camera.
What am I trying?
If he has-
Is it this one?
He still seems to have a hard time
Yeah. This.
actually removing the adapters.
yeah.
They're not removable once
They're on, they're on. Kind of like when I broke off the. I don't want to break it.
It's okay.
I might actually break it.
It's pretty tight on the metabones.
Okay.
So let's see. And I'm going to give Rod the A7R2 back.
I'd like a A7R2. Let me take this off here.
This is really good radio.
This is fantastic radio.
Rod's taking off the native Sony lens.
Taking off this native Sony, and now I'm about to put on the MC11 Sigma adapter, which is attached already to the art lens, and I'm going to put it now onto the A7R2.
Okay.
And quite a bit heavier.
A little bit heavier.
I could really feel.
Yeah.
You really need two hands to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm putting my fingerprints all over the screen.
That's
right now.
okay. That's okay. I've got a protector on that screen, so just do this in case you want to manually focus it. Okay, so now same mode. We'll turn it on and see how.
You know, I actually like the focusing with the Sigma better than
It's
I do
smooth.
with the G lens.
The actual mechanism, yeah.
Seems to be pretty darn quick with this thing.
Uh-huh.
And it's that half depressed that I told you I was complaining about. It seems to work better using the MC11.
Okay.
So
take some shots and we'll review them and see if they're focused. So are they going green?
yep.
Great. So what's the aperture? Yeah.
Two.
Let's make the aperture super shallow,
Okay.
but with this, I'm using this dial for it. So this adjusts the aperture here, and let's increase the shutter speed a little bit, just to.
Here, let's do my usual test here.
Okay, so we're going to choose shutter speed to 125. Just.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not going to just test some still autofocusing capability with this particular lens.
No, that looks pretty darn good. Good. Yeah, that's exactly what I was focusing on.
So what were you focusing on?
Right,
The buckle?
Yeah, the strap. Just
Okay.
the strap.
Pretty darn clear, huh?
That looks really great.
Okay. What were you focusing on there?
I think the lens.
The lens?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my viewfinder versus
Sure.
this button normally
Okay.
when I'm in video mode.
Right.
That's what happened there. So let's go back there.
That looks great. Look at that. You could. Yeah, I think it looks great. And pretty good low light.
Slightly noisy, but
Slightly noisy.
we could probably improve it.
Oh, but are you kidding? I mean, I would take that day and night over what I get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I think it looks pretty darn good. You know what? I think that lens combination is not bad.
It's good.
I think the lens combination is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
It's showing me that I don't need a Metabones.
Right.
I could certainly save half that dollar amount
If you
doing
get-
MCL
If you get the Sigma lens,
if I get a
yes.
Sigma lens.
Yeah.
That's correct. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, have you tried it with your Canon lenses? Because some work, some do not.
Yeah, I haven't really done a full extensive test.
I'd like to see that test one of these days.
Okay.
Not here, but I'd like you to try that
Okay.
because apparently it works just as good with Canon lenses, but a few of them.
A few of them, not all of them.
Not all of them. Not all of them out of the box. So,
Okay.
so that actually should attract you to it to be able to use some of your Canon glass.
Yeah.
With this, because I think it's supposed to.
Yeah. Well, I'll try it. I mean, I have the Metabones, so I haven't
Right.
had the need to
Right.
try to do much testing.
Exactly.
But you know,
But the
it's-
quickness of the autofocus is nice, though.
it is really, really
is
nice.
very nice.
It is really nice.
Well, Keith, I want to thank you for this new segment that we've just created, Lunch with Rod. And thank you very much for coming out here. Thank you for spending lunchtime with me.
It's my pleasure, Rod.
And it's been
Always.
a lot of fun to do this show and tell, and I hope that we could do it again.
Okay. Am I going to be escorted out of the building now?
You will be. You will
Okay,
be. Not by me, but the big guy Lefty in the back, who's twirling the billy club around his fingers.
But I feel somehow unsatisfied because I kind of almost feel like you're not quite as confused as you were when we started.
No, in fact, I think you're actually making it quite clear about I think you might have just solidified my thought that A6500, Sigma NC11, Sigma Art 1.8, 18 to 35. I still think that's the way
think
to
it's
go.
the
I
way
really
to go.
think so.
Yeah.
I really think so. I think that it's at a price point that is not going higher.
Right.
My $2,800, that's pretty much with your recommendation, buying everything new, don't worry about it, just be happy with it,
Yeah.
and live with that for another 6, 7, 9 years, whatever I do with these things. Yeah. I think that might be the end. I think that's the answer.
And you're okay with this bulk, this level of
Yeah.
bulk? It's a pretty significant upgrade from what you're used to.
Without a doubt, it's heavier.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it's heavier. But from what I think I can get out of it versus what I get now,
Yeah.
using a Micro Four Thirds,
It's just mainly light sensitivity, autofocus,
Yep.
shallow depth of field.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for.
that's what I'm looking for.
And in all accounts, the 6500 in this combo is going to probably be better
I think so.
than the GH4.
I think so.
GH5.
GH5.
Yeah.
Although you did throw a little wrench in the mechanics because then I started to think, why not I just get a GH4? Why in the world would I need 422 color space. Why would I need 10-bit? Why would I need
You probably don't need that. The only thing you probably need out of the GH5 is the better low light capability.
better low light capability and the image stabilization in body?
Yeah, in body, right?
Right.
Which is essential with this lens combo.
Right.
Because the Sigma doesn't have stabilization.
Which then points back to the A6500
Or the GH5.
or the GH5. But we already know that's too much. That's beyond what I want
that's
to spend.
true.
That's
That's the decider.
It's
That's the decider. With your budget, if it's an absolute limitation,
right.
it's probably the decider.
I mean, okay, so could I get a GH5 Metabones and a Sigma lens for $3,000? The answer is no. The answer is no.
Not in a speed booster.
Right.
Not a speed booster.
Right.
Because the speed boosters are going to be $600.
Right.
Yeah. You're going to be,
and that's,
but you're only going to be a couple $100 over.
But with tax and license, I'm probably going to be more like $400 over.
Well, if you can buy it, out of state or something, then you
Yeah.
don't have to pay tax.
Yeah.
That's what I usually do. Don't IRS. I actually don't do that. I'm just lying for the podcast, just to be dramatic. Well, I didn't show you a couple other lenses, but that's fine. We can show you next time. This is the teeny little Emount lens that will go on here.
I would like
This
to
would be good for a gimbal.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
I would like to see that sometime, but
You got to go.
I must go.
Your
Lunch is over with.
Your employees are
My
clamoring-
employees are
clamoring
dying for me to make my appearance again.
So I'm zipping up my bag and putting stuff away.
Well,
Security is tapping at the door.
Keith Moreau, I want to thank you very much for joining me here at my workplace, and thank you for joining us on our first installment of Lunch with Rod. I have been Rod Louie, and this has been Tech Move. We're going to come back with more of maybe real in-studio type of segments. What do you think, rather than this remote stuff?
I think so.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to come right back, and we'll do more of this right here on Tech Move.
Keith, I want to thank you again for joining me at my own personal cafeteria. I can't say that it's ultra delicious, but I do know that for sure it is fit for human consumption. So, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
and you hardly paid for it. I think that it was very nominal, as like only $30 for the two of us or something like that.
Yeah, it was amazingly inexpensive. Obviously, it's subsidized by you.
Yes.
Since you own the company and
Yes.
the cafeteria.
Yes.
But yeah, it was the main thing was just nice to see you and nice to spend time with you in person.
And I agree with that. And it's so nice that, because we do so many of these podcasts together, and to finally do it in person is a real and rare treat. So thanks for coming out all that way to spend time with me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had to wear name tags to recognize each other when we first saw each other.
Well, right. Well, I saw you from across the parking lot and going, is that Keith? Is that him? Not really too sure. But it all worked out well, and it was a great time. I want to thank you for really carting along pretty much the same equipment that you cart along on all your mobile shoots, because that was actually very helpful to me. I mean, you brought a lot of equipment. Some worked, some didn't.
Yeah,
But we'll get into that in just a moment here, which was a lot of fun.
Big snafu when I brought my GH4 all decked out, and then I had loaded a dead battery into it.
And that's the thing I really wanted to see, right? Was the GH4 with the with the Metabones and stuff like that, and
yeah, that was really disappointing. Oh well.
Oh well. I mean, but what was great was seeing the Sonys and the APS-C sensors with the Metabones, with the Sigma MC11.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very, very helpful and good as well.
Yeah, you could kind of get the weight and feel of it. The A7s are a little bit heavier than the A6500 that you're thinking of getting.
Right.
A little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, but overall, not much. So you can kind of get an idea.
For me, it's I can get an idea because I think it's probably a little bit closer to my GH1 body.
It's really similar.
The
in size.
A6500, right, is very similar.
Yeah.
And so with that, I kind of have a feel because that's the kind of space that I still want to be in. At the end of the day.
Yeah, somewhat smaller, not too huge, not DSLR sized, but mirrorless sized.
And I think it's probably safe to say that it won't be GH5 size because I think GH5s is a little bit bigger too.
Yeah, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
We
we'll
have
talk.
a little surprise at the end of this segment.
Sure. Of course, as always, our segments are always loaded with surprises. But no, it was fantastic to get a feel for the APS-C sensor, which I've never experienced before. It was very, very nice to get one in my hand, and really more to the point was the Sigma Art lens that I got a chance to touch and get a feel for. And Keith, it's a really beautiful lens. It really is really nice. It feels solid. It feels it has that nice weight to it and stuff. But on the other hand, that could be a detracting factor for me, is the weight issue.
It's a pretty big honking heavy lens.
It's a big lens. It's a big lens. And and I have to be honest with you as far as the Rod Louis cheapness that plagues this podcast. For what is it? It's a 18 to 55. Is that right?
18 to 35.
18 to 35.
Yeah.
With that kind of weight.
Yeah.
I mean, for that kind of weight, I thought it'd be at least like a 210 or something like that. You know what I mean?
You know what makes it heavy is the fact that it's just such a fast lens. It's a 1.8.
Right.
So that's what kind of makes it unique. The fact you can open the aperture so big.
And constant too, which is a big deal.
Yep, and constant, and it's actually kind of parafocal, which parafocal, for those that don't know, means that when you zoom in and focus, if you zoom out or at any point in the range, it will still stay in focus. And that's not really very common for stills lenses. So it's a big advantage for video shooters to have something that's parafocal.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's parafocal, the fact that it's really fast, makes it kind of big and heavy.
Yeah. And I could not be more pleased with the quickness of and frankly for really both adapters, right? The Metabones and the Sigma work both pretty well, I have to say.
Yeah, they're both excellent adapters. I think for Sigma lenses, I think the Sigma adapter is pretty darn great.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper. Well, it's about half the price of the Metabones.
I think half.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is better about it is I think it's actually made better. My overall feeling about it is it's actually made better than Metabones.
Interesting.
And I think it's just because Sigma is this huge lens company, and they have years and years of machining and all this great industrial design. It takes a lot of expertise to create good lenses. Lots of perfection in the fabrication process. And Metabones is just this little company that's all they do is make these adapters, and they're made in China, and they probably started out kind of cheap, and they're gotten better over the years. But I feel like the tolerances and things on the Sigma adapters are actually finer than the Metabones. Like the quality control and the variances are much narrower and smaller than on the Metabones.
When you have them in your hand, which I did, I thought both were very quality units, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and Metabones certainly has that name edge when it comes to these types of adapters and types of things. And but I think you're right. If you have Sigma lenses, the Sigma adapter, heck, it better work pretty good, right? It better work good with it. I'm just wondering how the Sigma adapter works with maybe something like Canon lenses or or something like that to your E-mount.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess there's information out there on the internet about that. I personally haven't done a lot of testing. All I know is that just in general, the adapters don't work too well with Canon lenses.
And I think from what I've read, it really depends on the lens.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like if you have an older lens, a vintage lens, maybe not so great. If you have something that's maybe a little bit newer, what have you, it can work really, really well with the Sigma adapter.
Yeah. And the thing that's actually kind of cool about both is that they're firmware updatable. I think Sigma is not going to go out of their way to make things work with Canon stuff.
Yeah.
There's no reason for them to.
Right.
They don't make much money on their adapters on the Sigma the adapter we're talking about. They're making money on the lenses.
Right.
So they just want to sell Sigma lenses. So they're not going to, I don't know if they're going to go out of their way to disable functionality on Canon lenses.
Yeah.
But
they're not exactly going to try and make it work 100% as they do with the Sigma lenses.
I'm really doubting it. I'm doubting they have a lab full of Canon lenses that they have a test department testing but they do have that for the Sigma lenses. So yeah, so you but the fact is it's pretty inexpensive. So
what, the Sigma lenses?
Yeah.
Or the Sigma
adapter?
Oh yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
it's not really that big of an investment to just get one for your Sigma lenses if you happen to have one or two Sigma lenses, and then get a Metabones for the Canons.
Well, but on the reverse side of things, the Metabones works pretty well with Sigma lenses, does it not?
Again, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I thought that I saw some tests where Metabones work pretty well with the Sigma lenses.
Yeah.
So so if you get and I think that's the whole thing too. If you get a Metabones adapter, at least this is what I think. If I were to buy one, like a Mark IV or something like that, that'd be it.
Yeah, you would need to get the Sigma.
I wouldn't need to at that
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
I've already invested the money in that adapter. Try and get whatever lenses you can on it, and work it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good strategy.
Yeah. All right. Good.
So
Well, hey, but it was great to see you. It was fantastic. It was a lot of fun, and it was great that you brought all the equipment, and especially being able to walk around with lavalier mics on us while eating lunch. That was a lot of fun too. So we hope that our listening audience was completely nauseated by our chewing and swallowing and so on and so forth.
We'll probably get some complaints. There's a bunch of complainers out there that just.
Of course.
Yeah. So the recording itself was okay. I went through it and did some post production on it. You'll hear it. It wasn't obviously optimal quality because we're not in a studio closed mic environment like now.
Right, we were in open air, kind of like open room. Was there a lot of reverb and background noise in our recordings?
Yeah, there was. Just a lot of background noise. It was there was reverb in the cafeteria and just a lot of people talking and ambient reverb and stuff from them.
But you know what? That's really important because that's our live studio audience that we had. That's what I'd like to say is our live studio audience that was in attendance.
Yeah, it was like dinner theater. But yeah, so one of the things that like for paying gigs and if the audio quality is really important, I will usually when one person's talking, I'll reduce the level on the other mic, and that way that you don't get a lot of bleed from the other mic.
Right.
And it just makes the person that you want to hear a lot clearer, and then vice versa. So like if you're talking, I'll reduce my mic. When I'm talking, I'll reduce your mic. I didn't do that a ton because we're kind of talking back and forth, and it's really tedious and time consuming to do that.
Right.
Although I have done that for projects, I didn't do it so much for this one. So there's a little bit more ambience and extra noise and reverb and stuff than there should be. And then for some reason there was a little bit of distortion clipping mostly on your mic.
Of course, because I speak the loudest.
You have a lot of dynamics in your voice.
I do. Thank you very much.
You're a very dynamic person.
Thank you.
And but that's a pain for post production because I had to. No, it's
Right,
fine.
right.
No, it's-
Yeah. I mean, you should be putting me through a limiter or some sort of gate or something like that. That would really be best.
I should have. You know what I should have done is put you through these little kind of adapters that I made myself, which have a little attenuator on one channel. It splits the signal and attenuates one channel quite a bit, and then doesn't attenuate the other channel. And then and I use this for when I record people in the field a lot, because you want to have like one safety track that's kind of low and another one that's pretty hot. So if they're whispering, you use that track, like the left track, and if they're, because that's the louder track, and then the right track you'll use if they're talking really, really loud, because it won't distort. But I didn't do that. I just was doing it really quick, and so what I actually wound up doing was putting some of it through this declip thing with the isotope,
Oh yeah.
and that actually works amazingly well. It somehow analyzes the waveform and kind of smooths it out, so it takes the clipping away. You know, it's not perfect, but it actually improves it a lot. So
I like the isotrope products. I wish I just knew how to use it. I need to sit down with you and have you give me a lesson on how to set it up.
yeah, well they we'll go over it sometime. It's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
They actually also have plugins for Premiere and Final Cut.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, I actually recently just bought the plugin pack, the new plugin pack. They had a special on like Christmas time. So, well, I guess it wasn't that recent, but in Tech Move podcast,
Oh yeah, no, that was just yesterday.
it's
So
like
that's
dog years.
no, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Good.
So, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So that's how I mixed it. So, you know, not the best audio, but people get the idea.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
and you know, really, folks, we were really walking around this cafeteria. So I think other than putting out our dictaphone tape recorders, this was about as good as it was going to get, frankly, right? I mean, you know, without an entire crew following us around with booms, we weren't really going to be able to, you know, get too great of a thing. And I think I'm sure it turned out fantastic.
Yeah. Next time, I promise. Next time the audio will be superlative. Because
Well-
now I know how your voice is up live situation.
Yes.
I'll be able to bring the duct tape and rope and little shocking stimulant devices when necessary along. So it'll be much better.
Good.
No. Too loud. You're
Well,
clipping.
You know, and it's going to be fabulous because we will be doing more of these lunches with Rod segments, and so I think that we will have plenty of opportunities to make this the way that we want. So
Yep.
that'll be great. Keith, let me move on to something that I just read in the news, which I of course I instantly thought about you. When it came out and it hit the news wires, and Apple is yet again teasing us on a new Mac Pro.
Yeah.
They are going to supposedly, I think from what I read, I think they're going to change it from garbage can style to maybe something else. You know, whether or not it's a round cylinder or a oblong triangle or maybe a star design. You know, we're really not quite sure because Apple is probably not quite sure yet, but it's supposed to be some sort of, you know, grand update from the last Mac Pro, which was what, 2012, 2013 or something like that?
2013 was
2013.
the trash can.
It was a trash can model. So, and we're probably not going to see it this year. I think it's like early next year. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely not this year. I'm not sure how early next year it's going to be, but it will be at the soonest next year. So 2018.
They're not really telling us anything yet because I'm sure they're just putting ink to paper right now. But you know, your thoughts on, you know, you've been through this roller coaster ride of emotions for the better part of well, I mean, since the 2013 model. How many years before that was there an update from a Mac Pro to the garbage can model?
Well, the previous one was 2010.
Yeah.
Was the design that I have.
Right.
And that continued all the way to 2013 until they released the trash can.
Right.
So, but I really didn't really want a different design. The outside, I didn't care how big, bulky, or not as elegant maybe as a trash can, but way more, in my opinion, way more practical than the trash can. The trash can is like, if you want to take your little trash can around and then to different sites and then plug it in, the little dongles in to make it work with something, that's great.
Yeah.
But Mac Pro is not. I don't think a Mac Pro is meant for that. Get a MacBook Pro if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Bring your fairly powerful MacBook Pro to wherever you want. You can do lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't need to bring your trash can. Besides, you're gonna have to bring all this extra stuff anyway to make it actually work.
Right.
Like a monitor maybe, and drives and cables and dongles and extra stuff. So you wind up bringing a lot of stuff anyway. The
Right.
computer happens to be kind of small and light. So bring your MacBook Pro.
See, the thing that I think caught my eye about it was that how they said they were going to make it more friendly for people who wanted to do updates or upgrades to it, which kind of led me to believe that maybe it might be like your Mac Pro, right, where it was this kind of like traditional tower type of thing. Maybe they're going to bring that back because, as you know, the trash can is such where you can't really work on it.
No, it's you can add RAM to it, maybe add more drives, the little SSD drives that go into it.
Yep.
But other than that, it's totally unupgradable.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the upgrades, if you want to upgrade the cards, you're relying on these other non-Apple card manufacturers to produce specially designed cards that fit into it, because regular cards don't fit into it. So it was just doomed. I feel like it was just doomed. I feel like when I saw it, that's why I didn't get one. It's like,
Right.
why bother?
Right.
In a year it's going to be obsolete anyway, and they're not going to update it.
Yeah.
And ATI is not going to keep coming out with new cards for it.
And it's so expensive to begin with too.
Yeah, it's really, really overpriced, and you can't do anything to it other than what Apple allows you to do. I mean, it's like getting an iMac, kind of. You probably even less versatile than an iMac, because
I think it's less.
Actually, yeah.
I think it's less than an iMac because remember I was able to upgrade mine quite nicely.
Yeah.
And mine's still running strong. So
yeah, just because there's so much, there's just more room. Like the little trash can is just so compact, and every single square centimeter is filled with stuff.
Right.
And all that stuff is custom packed in there and designed and packed to fit in there. So just doomed idea from the start. I feel sorry for the people that bought them. I feel like my computer now is just as fast as, or faster than those, because I can put in high-end, the latest NVIDIA graphics cards into mine, and
right.
with your old trash can, you can't do that. You have to use like 3-year-old graphics cards.
Right.
So, yeah, just doomed. So, yeah, I would be totally ecstatic if they just came out with an updated version of the box that I have.
Yes.
New motherboard, Thunderbolt, instead of having to put card. Well, actually, mine can't even support Thunderbolt. So yeah, Thunderbolt support, but still PCI support, faster CPUs, faster memory, and other buses and stuff that are in there. Still good power supply, maybe more energy efficient, because my Mac Pro draws a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like idling at 400 watts all the time. So
is your Mac Pro pretty quiet?
it's not as quiet as the trash can, but it's darn quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, even when it's working hard, it's quiet. It's
Sure.
actually quieter than my MacBook Pro.
Okay.
Because when my MacBook Pro starts working, its fan starts spinning up.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I have it in a space where it's kind of down, and I have some acoustical kind of dampening around it, kind of behind it, so noise that it comes out of the back is being kind of absorbed. But yeah, but I'm really happy with mine.
Yeah.
With all my upgrades and everything.
Right.
Actually, one of the reasons, and this kind of maybe segues to the next topic.
Sure. Go ahead.
So, remember I've been complaining about how crashy Premiere Pro has been, and I've just been
Oh,
sick
yeah.
of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you were even thinking of going back to Final Cut, I think.
Yeah, I actually bought Final Cut.
Oh, you did?
10. I bought Final Cut 10, yeah, because my 30-day thing ran out. Because they have a 30-day trial, and then you have to pay for it.
Okay.
But yeah, because I really thought I was going to have to go to it, because literally Premiere Pro was unusable.
Was it really?
It was becoming unusable to me. I would just get these. First, the screen would start getting kind of scrambled, and then and then have to reboot, and then it would just crash, and it would do like kernel panic crashes, not like, not like just simple the app quit. It was like shutting my whole computer down. So I was just like, what am I gonna do? So I was just searching for possible hints to solve the problem, and I just did a search for screen artifacts in Premiere Pro or something like that.
Yeah.
And because that was one of the symptoms of it, it's like little blocks of the screen would get kind of scrambled. Kind of like if you were a jigsaw puzzle and you mixed up the puzzle pieces.
Right.
And then I found this really interesting thread on the Adobe forums, and it was this people had the similar issues, how to solve it, and they were complaining and how unstable it was, how it crashed, it'd start get this artifact, all the stuff that I was experiencing. Wow, and it was a really long thread. It was like, maybe hundreds of posts from dozens of people complaining and how to solve it. So one guy just said, here's what you need to do: remove everything related to CUDA from your computer, from your hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
All the CUDA drivers, all that stuff. And remember how I've been talking about how great CUDA is for years.
Yeah.
And just to refresh people's memory, CUDA is just a way that programs can, especially Adobe programs, communicate directly with the NVIDIA cards to do fancy stuff, to offload the CPU and use the GPU that's on the video cards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but it's not really very. It's kind of kludgy on the Mac. It's something that NVIDIA has totally designed and supported, and kind of made it work on the Mac. But the Mac's native interface that's very similar to CUDA, but it's just different, and it's Apple's native interface is called OpenCL.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the same thing. Programs use it to communicate directly with the card to accelerate stuff. So, but initially Premiere Pro didn't really support OpenCL too well. It goes kind of like half baked. Adobe thought that CUDA was better than OpenCL and just didn't put a lot of resources into it.
Mm-hmm.
But then as OpenCL became like the only alternative for a lot of Mac platforms, because CUDA only works on NVIDIA cards, whereas OpenCL works on NVIDIA and on ATI cards.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a bigger customer base. I think they just said, hey, we better start supporting OpenCL. So now Premiere Pro pretty much does everything in OpenCL that it could also do in CUDA. They're pretty similar in the functionality.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought that OpenCL was not as good as CUDA, and that's why I just never used OpenCL.
Mm-hmm.
And also sometimes I chose OpenCL and I'd still get these crashes. So I was like, I didn't think it was really, because you can choose that in Premiere Pro. You can choose to use CUDA. You could decide how to use the Mercury playback agent, whether it uses CUDA or whether it uses OpenCL.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, long story short, I read this post and I said, I'm just at the end of my rope. I'm going to just try this. So I just searched for anything with CUDA in it, all the drivers, all the little libraries, all the little things that are spread all over the NVIDIA installs when you install their drivers. And I just deleted it all. I just trashed it all and, made sure it was gone.
A full delete, full-on delete.
Just a full delete of anything, even stuff that probably wouldn't matter because nothing's referencing
Registry clean, everything.
Yeah, kind of like the registry clean thing.
Nice.
Yeah, we're using a Windows reference, but it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And
dangerous stuff is really what it is, because you could really screw up something. But go on. Yes.
Well, what I did, I was a little smart about it. I put it into special folders and things that I could recover later if I wanted to. But basically, it's just the stuff that NVIDIA installs when you install their driver.
Right.
And I deactivated CUDA and did all, just basically so. And when I rebooted, there was just no CUDA. I couldn't even choose CUDA. Just CUDA did not exist. But the NVIDIA graphics driver, aside from CUDA, did exist. So it was driving the screens fine and everything. So just things that would call CUDA wouldn't work. Okay, so I'd have to use OpenCL instead. And lo and behold, my computer became instantly super stable when using Premiere Pro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was just as fast. I didn't get a speed hit. I just got super smooth stability. So all those years of complaining about how lousy Premiere Pro was and how unstable it was and all this stuff was, in my opinion now, due to CUDA.
Nice.
Yeah. So the fact that I have no CUDA in my system, Premiere Pro has to use OpenCL, and it tells me that when I open an old project, it says, "Oh, this used to use CUDA, but it's no longer available. Do you want to use OpenCL instead?" I said, "Yeah." So it just transfers things over, and now it's a joy to work with Premiere Pro.
Really?
Like, I actually love Premiere Pro now.
So it's a new lease on life with Premiere Pro now.
It is, and honestly, when I was starting to endeavor to try to use Final Cut X or 10, I knew that it could be eventually good, but I don't feel like it could be as good as Premiere Pro in a lot of ways.
Oh, okay.
I think when you get used to it and you get to use it, you find all these little workarounds to make your workflow well, and I think it probably is really, really quick once you adapt to their style of editing. A lot of people say that they can edit a lot quicker on FCP, but I find there's a lot of limitations with FCP. I find that the exporting of different types of formats is really limited. It's very basic and simple and complicated to export anything than what Apple has decided it likes to export. Doing audio mixing is also overly complicated. It's not like a mixing board.
Oh, really?
It's like, no,
It's
they don't
harder,
have.
huh?
Yeah, they just have this concept of tracks, and then you have to add effects to tracks, and it's really, I feel like it's really an indirect way of doing things. It's kind of like what Apple did with the trashcan Mac Pro. They wanted to make this really elegant thing, but they threw away all the good stuff. And I feel kind of like Final Cut 10 is kind of like that too. I feel like they should have kept all the old good stuff, the audio mixers and all those things that Final Cut 7 had.
Yeah.
Leave all that stuff in. Have a legacy way of doing things if you want to.
Yeah.
Don't just throw everything out and make you have to learn this new paradigm that's kind of less efficient in some ways. So anyway, I was just saying this is going to be a huge learning curve. I'm not going to be able to do anything for months.
Right.
So since the stability thing happened with Premiere Pro with throwing out CUDA, now I have no desire to use Final Cut 10. Sorry for all the Final Cut 10 fans that were hoping I was going to switch. I'm just not going to.
You're just not going.
Why would I?
But did you try it at least?
I did. I did try it a few times.
And okay, so here maybe you can at least speak to that. The last time you used Final Cut was probably Final Cut 7.
Yes.
Okay. So and then it went all downhill from there, right? After 7, it was all downhill for Final Cut until we hit now. Is 10 somewhat getting there from when you last remember 7?
Oh yeah. Well, when I first tried 10, it was right when they came out with 10. Right after they discontinued 7 and then came out with 10.
Yeah.
And it was like iMovie. It was not very good. And it's still kind of like iMovie, but it's way more sophisticated and you could do a lot more professional stuff with it now.
Oh,
They kept adding more and more and better stuff.
Uh-huh.
So now it's actually, there are some professional shows and stuff that use it. So yeah, it's much more of a professional editing platform.
Okay.
It makes you jump through hoops,
Yeah.
which I don't like, but if you jump through those hoops, eventually you get really good at jumping through those hoops, and they become natural, and you get really good at it, just like anything. But I kind of feel like I don't have time to learn the hoops right now. I just don't feel like it. And if Premiere Pro is adequate, and allows me to do all this stuff super fast, like I normally been my workflow and everything and my way of working super fast, then why change?
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Oh yeah,
Why
sure.
waste all that time?
Well,
So-
as one of our famous segments, "Fix What's Not Broke," I'm kind of surprised you're saying that, but nonetheless, you're right. I mean, for the learning curve like that, especially with the way you work around Premiere, would just be it would probably be like you'd probably be handcuffed.
I would feel handcuffed for months until it became clearer how to use it, and I still feel like there's things that you can kind of do in Final Cut 10, but you have to do a lot of things backwards to do it.
Yeah.
You have to kind of reverse engineer it to get it to do what you want, and maybe you'll just wind up not doing it because it's too hard or too much trouble. And then in Premiere you just do it because it's easy.
Right.
You know, Premiere is not perfect. It's got a lot of issues. Like it's still, in some cases, it'll just crash, but very, very rarely now, for me. And some features that they should have added 10 years ago are still not there. Like applying. So there's this concept called adjustment layers, which they introduced a few years ago, and it's actually really cool. So you basically just create this thing called you could have a track, right? And say you want, like for example, that video I showed you with the log, and unlog. So you just create this adjustment track above the footage you want to affect. So like track 1 has the footage in it that's log, say, and then track 2 has this just one big clip that's called an adjustment layer, and you add whatever effects you want to that. And one of those effects can be a LUT to unlog it.
Oh, okay.
So it's really cool. The problem is though that if you have multiple video tracks, which sometimes you have multiple cameras, so you have multiple video tracks, that adjustment layer can't be targeted to a particular track. It just affects everything below it. So if you have like track 1 is like your A6500 and track 2 is your A7, and they're slightly different color or whatever, they need to be adjusted differently because they're not matched up perfectly. And you put an adjustment layer on track 3, it'll apply that LUT to both tracks
and even it out.
No, well, it'll just take that LUT and it'll apply it to track 2 and to track 1, but the LUT may not be perfectly adjusted for one camera.
Oh, okay.
It'll affect them both equally.
Oh, okay.
So that's not always good.
Right.
It would be great to create an adjustment track that would target. Like I want this adjustment track to just affect track 1.
Right.
I want this other adjustment track just to affect track 2.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right.
So, that kind of thing is super simple and would just ease so much post-production. There's a lot of little things like that that are kind of really super simple and easy, and they just haven't done it because they're too busy creating new fancy features that nobody wants.
Right.
So, anyway, that's my soapbox. But
No, I like it.
happy news. I'm really productive in Premiere Pro now for the last couple of months, and
That's great.
I'm happy.
That's
Yeah.
great. No, I know that's always a big bother to you when these things get switched up and you can't do one thing one day and
Yeah, it's
and
just
all this kind of stuff. So good, congratulations on that. Well, hey, kudos to the Premiere Pro folks for well, actually, I guess not really them, but to OpenCL and you discovering all that stuff.
yeah. Kudos to the Premiere Pro folks for not doing something that I thought that they were doing for years.
Let's switch gears, Keith. We have some important news here because coming up at the time of this particular recording, in I guess a couple of weeks, we're looking at NAB.
Yes.
It is NAB season.
Yes.
And of course, Keith Moreau will be live at the NAB reporting to all of us new things, new observations, hopefully new products.
Yes.
And so, Keith, as the representative of Tech Move, we'd like to kind of get your, maybe your forecast on what you think may be happening there. Frankly, a lot of companies have already, announced big things already. What else can they possibly do? I'm wondering if, we're really going to be just seeing more updates to things, accessories, so on and so forth. Your thoughts?
I haven't heard a lot of rumblings about much.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if the cameras are just kind of all in the middle of their life cycles or whatever, but I haven't heard a lot of rumors, and we're starting to get pretty close to NAB. Usually like a month, maybe 2 weeks before, there's a lot of rumors.
Right.
And there just really aren't any rumors.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's stuff that was released.
although maybe Sony's going to announce the A6700 at NAB. Who knows about that, right?
I would love them to create some type of GH5 killer.
Sony to create
Yeah.
a GH5 killer. Okay.
I would love, like a Pro and like a $4,000. I would pay. So here's what I'd pay $4,000 to $5,000 for an an A9, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a Sony A9.
Right.
Sure. Let's give it
Sure.
And here's what it would have. It would have all the stuff that the A7s have. Okay.
Right.
It would have at least as many autofocus points as the A6500, because the A6500 actually has more than the A7s.
400 plus, actually
Yeah.
420 plus, I believe.
Yep. It would have built-in electronic ND, like the FS5 and the FS7 II have. It would have 10-bit internal recording, like the GH5 has. For 10-bit 422, it would have a higher bit rate for that, at least 150, 200 megabits per second. And it would have unlimited recording time. It wouldn't have that 30-minute time limit.
Right.
And it wouldn't overheat. And it would be waterproof or water resistant.
Yeah.
And it would drive my car if I want it. No.
Right.
But no, it would be great if they came out. I would pay $4,000 for that type of camera. I would pay an extra $500 for the ND and an extra $500 for all the other stuff.
Wow.
I want them to come out with the new generation of hybrid mirrorless cameras. And also have a fully articulatable screen and a touch screen on the LCD.
Sure. Well,
because now they don't have a touch screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure if the A6500 does or not.
It does, but remember, it's somewhat limited. You can kind of pull. You could tap focus on it, but you can't do you can't access menu items through the touchscreen, which is kind of goofy.
Yeah.
So like all you can do is kind of pull focus off the touchscreen.
Okay.
But you cannot do anything menu wise or anything like that.
Yeah. So anyway, I would love for them to at least announce something like that. That would be really, really cool. And I think they have an impetus to, because I think the GH5, with all the features that it has, why not just add all that to Sony technology and get something really cool? So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll announce an FS5 II, which could have all that in there. That would be cool too. So the FS5 II, because right now I have the FS5 and it's cool, but it has some limitations on its internal recording. I'd love to have 10-bit internal recording like the FS7 has. I'd love to have a in-body sensor stabilization on the FS. So if they came with the FS5 like that, that would also be really cool. It would probably be more expensive though.
Yeah.
It'd probably be like in the $6,000 plus range.
Right. And at that point, you'd pretty much have to kind of think about that.
Yeah.
At that moment. Yeah.
One thing else that was there was been all the the GH5 was announced months ago. The Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro, which I don't know if I told you about that.
I had seen stuff on the Ursa Mini Pro.
Okay.
But I'm not really super versed on it.
Yeah. So basically, it's just kind of an updated Ursa Mini. It's got supposedly the same sensor and image quality and everything as the Ursa Mini, which was out a year ago. Well, really only started shipping maybe 6 months ago. But But they came out with this new Ursa Mini Pro, and the main thing it has really is a little bit better buttons on the outside, a little bit better viewing and ergonomics. But the main thing, I think, is that it's got a built-in ND wheel.
Oh,
just like all the other camcorders in existence. So remember I was telling you before that was the one thing that it could have had, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And they added it to it.
Ooh.
And it's pretty simple design. It's just like a click thing. You just kind of turn it, and it clicks to 3 different stops of ND, just like most of the others. That makes it a lot more useful. So, in fact, at NAB, I've already set up an appointment to talk to them about that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that'll be fun. I was thinking I would get one because it's pretty darn cheap. It's still like $6,000 in that range. But the thing that holds me back is the low light performance.
Not good.
It's average.
Well, it's that's still a micro four thirds, is it not?
No, it's actually Super 35.
Oh, it's Super 35. Okay.
Maybe even bigger. It's just not. I don't know, the technology or whatever in the sensor. It's just not as sensitive as the Sonys.
Sure.
So it's not as good as the Sonys or the Canons in low light. So that makes it a little less versatile. So if they came out with the Ursa Mini, the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro low light edition, I might get that one.
Is the what's the size difference between the Ursa Mini Pro and, let's say, their very popular, was it the Blackmagic Pocket?
Oh, yeah, that's teeny.
Yeah, that's teeny. I mean,
Yeah.
like, is Ursa Mini still a somewhat full size?
It's pretty big.
Okay.
It's pretty big.
So it's just like the Ursa, just a little smaller than the Ursa.
The Ursa was huge.
Yeah, yeah.
The Ursa was like a gigantic, unwieldy thing.
Yeah.
With like a 10-inch screen or something ridiculous.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was like for studios, and I think maybe they're just continuing. I'm not really sure, but the Ursa Mini Pro. Let me see if I can compare it in size. The body itself is maybe a little bit about the same size as maybe the FS7.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit smaller, but
okay.
It's much wider.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like almost like two FS7s stacked next to each other. It's still not. It's not overly gigantic and heavy. I think for what it does, it's not extravagantly large.
Mm-hmm.
It's not small either. It's not like FS5 sized.
Right.
So, but when I held it, I didn't hold the Mini Pro yet, but I held the Mini, and I felt like, oh, this is lighter than I thought. But you need to add this gigantic battery on the back and other things that make it bigger. So, anyway, kind of exciting for cinematography. I think it's an amazing, great sensor and looks good. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get one right now.
Yeah, I have to imagine it's got to be hard for some of these companies to break through when we're talking about things like the Sony line, Panasonic GH5 that's out there now. So many great cameras for the price that just do so much now. It's got to be hard for these guys to. I mean, really something compelling. Kind of like what we had talked about in our pre-show meeting, our production meeting. I had read something about the Canon 5D Mark III getting the ability now to do in-camera 4K, right?
Oh yeah, with the Magic Lantern update.
So I mean, don't you think that's kind of like little too late type of thing with everything that's going out there now, the Sonys, the Panasonics? Unless you've already got one, then that might be something we want to think about. But that seems like a nice afterthought type of thing.
Yeah, I think it's just the Magic Lantern folks just kind of getting excited about hacking and seeing what they could do. But and I think for some people that already have one, it's like, all right, I get 4K now.
Yeah.
And then they have to use Magic Lantern and all the weirdness that it has in it. But I installed Magic Lantern, I think, on my 5D Mark II and III, just to try it out, and I just went, it wasn't that exciting to me
Oh, really?
to get those features. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then, when the GH4 and the A7 just came out, I was like, why bother? Because it's just basically adding what those things have in it already.
Right.
I mean, some of the things are good, like the raw recording and all that, but then you have to deal with all the cards and media and all that stuff. So it's just a huge investment,
Right.
Now, why wouldn't you just get like a Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro?
Yeah.
Or Mini. It does something, those kind of things, but way easier.
Right.
So, yeah. So I'm not overly excited about that. Although, okay, so another thing might be maybe Canon's going to come out with another, I don't know, C300 or C200 or something like that. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So like a Canon, so now there's the C100 Mark II, and then there's the C300 Mark II.
Uh-huh.
But there's kind of a big gap in the middle. It would be pretty cool for them to come out with like the C200 that had, internal something that has maybe 10-bit internal recording, but isn't so expensive and gigantic as the Mark II, but still has a really good sensor. I think people would, might pay like, I don't know how much they would pay because the C100 Mark II is already in the $6,000 range, but then maybe they'd pay $8,000 for it or something.
Right.
Kind of just like a slightly scaled down version of the C300 Mark II, a little bit lighter, a little bit less unwieldy.
Right.
Because even though that camera's now almost like 3 years old since the announcement, I'm still kind of excited about it. The Canon C300, because it's got all the stuff that I want in it. It's got the autofocus, it's got the high bit rate, it's got the really good low light. It uses Canon mount lenses. So maybe they'll come out with something like that. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. That will be kind of neat to see if something like that can hit the show floor, shall we say? What else do you think might be at the show? I remember last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of stuff was about like, LED panel lights and stuff like that. A lot of drone stuff going around. What else do you think we could see at this year's NAB?
Yeah, I would say there's probably going to be another 3,000 brands of gimbals.
Right. Hopefully cheaper too.
Yeah, they'll probably be lower in price.
Yeah.
There's actually there's this one that's what is called the crane, the something crane. I forgot what that name is, some Chinese name, but then crane at the end.
Okay.
But anyway, it's supposedly really, really good, really lightweight. It's only like $500-$600, and it's supposedly better than all of them now.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gimbals like that are, much better than last year's. I think the gimbals are getting better and better and better.
Oh yeah.
Maybe DJI will come out with a new Ronin, right? It's been a few years since the original Ronin.
Right.
Maybe they'll come out with a new brand, or new updated, like the Ronin 2, and maybe the Ronin M2. That's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe just a different paradigm for gimbals. Different ways to make them work better.
Yeah.
Like there was this one gimbal that came out that was really cool. It was a handheld gimbal, but instead of the back motor being right behind the like the LCD screen on the camera, like if you mounted a DSLR on there and you were looking at it, it would always be blocked, right? So it actually just mounted it so that it was just tilted up all the time. So the actual gimbal motor was below the camera, like 45 degrees below it.
Okay.
In the back, so that it would clear the back of the screen. That's a really awesome idea.
Yeah.
Because it's just oriented a little bit different. It's just, it's all going to work exactly the same as before and have the same flexibility. It just removes this blocking thing, so you could actually just watch the back of the screen more easily. Stuff like that.
Sure.
People thinking out of the box.
Sure.
So there's probably going to be some stuff like that. We'll see. I'm definitely going to look out for those things like that there, because gimbals are becoming pretty darn useful.
Cool.
Yeah, and there'll be lots of drones as well.
What as far as you go, obviously being a award-winning journalist like you are for TechMove, what are you personally looking to go see? If number one, there is a new product, or number two, just something you're anticipating a vendor to have? Is there anything on your own personal radar you want to look for?
Not really. Not
Yeah.
really. There's just not a lot of cool stuff that is going to be announced. That
At least nothing that they're leading on to, right?
nothing that I've heard of. So I'm not. I guess I'm not going in saying I gotta see this. I gotta
Yeah.
I kind of know about all the newer stuff. So there's nothing that I'm just so excited to look at. I think, maybe looking at some newer gimbals and drones. Although I have all those now.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's some new announcement that comes out that just blows everything out of the water, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe look at lenses.
Yeah.
I haven't focused on lenses much in the last couple of years there, so maybe I'll start. I'll look at the Leica booth and the the other high-end lenses. There's quite a few great cinematography lenses. I'll look at some of the the cinema adapted lenses, like the art lenses that have been adapted for cinema.
Right.
And they get to charge like 4 times as much for them.
Right.
We'll put a gear on it
Yeah.
and we made it bigger. We're not
Exactly.
going to charge you 4,000 instead of 1,000.
Good.
Stuff
good,
like
good.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I think. Well, okay. So NAB happens when? Is it April 22? I think it starts.
I think the first conferences start on the 22nd.
And
That's
then-
basically when the public is not in there. But if I wanted to, I could. I'm going to be flying in. That's a Saturday afternoon,
Okay.
so I'll be flying into Vegas at that point.
Great.
So if I want to go to the show and check something out, maybe I will. The actual show, the official opening, is on the 24th.
Good. We will the Tech Move audience will be eagerly awaiting your reports and some breaking news events that will be occurring, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, for the most recent and latest news, look to somewhere else. But if you wanted a month or two later, you come back here to Tech Move, and we'll at least have an in-depth report for you. So that will be exciting. Good luck, Keith, and
Thank you.
wave the Tech Move flag.
I will.
With pride.
I will.
And we greatly appreciate the hardship it will be of you going to NAB.
The
but
dust.
I am excited, though. We mentioned earlier on in this segment that the GH5 had been announced. And, this is something that's been going on for a while now. And but to our luck, it really hasn't started shipping until just, really recently, right?
Yeah, like today.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just hitting people's mailboxes now and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, do we even need to ask, Keith? Do you have one yet?
I have one in my hands. I'm holding it right now.
Of course you do.
I got it about 4 days ago. I got it on Friday. It's now Wednesday.
Fantastic. And Keith, give us some impressions. I have my own theories, and I'd like you to kind of go about it, because obviously I still have not bought my Sony A6500.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Still very, very hot on it. But, I do have to admit that, I'm looking at the GH5. I'm looking at it. There's a lot of great things about it that I've heard about, read about, seen on various videos. Let's hear from the one and only Keith Moreau. Keith, go ahead. Give me a first impression.
Okay, so my first impression, and I'm actually going to kind of just take the lens stuff off that I have on there now, just to kind of see if my first impression was actually accurate. So I'm just going to put in the lens cap back on there, so that it's just the body.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm holding it, and I have a GH4 right next to me as well.
Oh, you have the GH4 and a GH5 in your hands right now.
Yes. So here's the thing. I feel like the GH5 is like significantly bigger and heavier. It feels almost like a 5D.
That's what I thought. I mean, when
Yeah.
when you do side by side comparisons of the Sony A6500 and a GH5, GH5 looks like a full frame camera to me.
It is. It's kind of surprising. It's kind of
Okay.
surprising that it's quite a bit thicker. And it's just more solid. The grip is bigger. Everything's a little bit bigger.
Okay.
You know, so I feel like, wow, this. And when I first picked it up, I said, wow, this is like a DSLR.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit heavier too. So that was my first impression. Because they've just gotten bigger and bigger over the years. You know, it's so that part, you know, maybe is not a plus, but it feels really good in the hand. Like it feels way better than the Sony's.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
just it feels like
better ergonomics, so on and so forth.
yeah, it's just way better ergonomics. It's all the buttons are kind of roundy and in the right place, and it fits. Your thumb fits where it should. It doesn't feel like it's digging into your fingers and cutting off your circulation and cutting you. And you know, you feel like you can hold it without too much stress and without dropping it. So I think there's a reason that it's a little bit bigger and heavier. I mean, the heaviness is probably just because it's got more stuff in it, you know, a little bit more electronics, a little bit more, you know, the built-in stabilizer for all this stuff adds weight.
Right.
So, but very, very, very similar in use to the GH4. Menus and everything feel very familiar. Button placement and other things feel very familiar. It's got an extra joystick on it, so it's kind of like it's almost got like two joysticks on it. It used to just have the dial wheel that was kind of like a joystick,
Okay.
but now it's got another additional joystick, that's kind of under your thumb. That's really good for moving focus around and stuff because it's right there.
Okay.
So, and I'm just putting back my combo. And you actually asked me, have you tried this combo of your Metabones and the Sigma
Right.
that you're in love with?
Yes.
And so I just tried it today,
Okay.
and I'm putting it back on. I have to figure out how to actually get the lens back on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so when I first put it on and turned it on, let's see if this happens now. The there was no image, or the image was, yeah, and that's kind of the case now.
Oh, really?
So-
No image, huh?
Well, it was like, so I'm not quite sure what.
Or, yeah. I was going to
Yeah.
suggest, you know, there's a menu item where it allows you to put on any kind of lens that you want, right? That was from way back in the good old GH1 days. And I don't know
Yeah.
if they automatically just allow you to do that, or you actually have to change a setting in there to do that. Because I want to say, I did know that you got the GH5, and some of the test shots that you sent to me
Oh yeah.
indicate that you were just using Panasonic lenses. So I
Right.
don't know if you've actually tried any third-party lens or not.
Well, what I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
I'm doing that right now. So there's definitely some type of glitchiness with the speed booster that I have right now. So I'm using the speed booster and the 18 to 35, and I actually had this working before. I'm going to turn it off and on again. So when I first put it on, I got like snow coming out of the viewfinder
Okay.
and nothing else.
Okay.
Like, okay, it's going, I don't really like this combo. I'm just not going to work. So then I kind of fiddled with it. I kind of unscrewed the 18 to 35 and then screwed it back on, and then it started kind of working.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of doing that now, and it's still not really working. So, but when I slightly unscrew it, basically when I disconnect the electronics, then it works.
Huh.
So I'm gonna but then I did get it to work once, where it was actually working okay.
Okay.
So let me just try it.
So it's probably just a matter of fiddling around with it or something like that.
Yeah, I think it takes a combination of like turning the power. This is like here's what I just did. I had the lens slightly unscrewed, so the contacts weren't engaged on the front of the Metabones in the lens, and then I turned on the power, let it boot up, and then I screwed it in, and now it's working. Okay, so now I've got it to focus, and it's focusing pretty darn quick.
Oh,
not
okay.
not as quick as the native lens,
Right.
but you can. Okay, so I'm going to tell you. Can you hear the little beeping?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you when I press it and then when it's in focus.
Okay.
Pressing. 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 Pressing.
Doesn't sound too bad.
It's pretty quick. It's pretty
Yeah.
quick. It's not. It doesn't seem to be continuously focusing, so I'm not sure what the deal is there. There's some pretty interesting settings for focusing.
I would be interested in the autofocus. You know, one of the big things is having your subject, like your dog, running towards you. Would it be able to follow focus that?
Yeah, theoretically yes, but I'm not sure why it's not doing it. Let me see. I'm going to go into a menu setting here. So I have continuous AF on, and I have AF custom settings. You can set the sensitivity and the AF sensitivity, and so I have it all the way down, so I'm going to set it to all the way responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then all right. So now, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem to want to focus. It doesn't seem to want to focus continuously. I don't know if that's my setting or something weird about it. But if I press the button, the half shutter,
Yeah.
then it focuses instantly.
Okay.
So it seems like there's something that either I'm not setting it right or it just doesn't work with the metabones, or maybe there's some setting on the metabones.
I think there's a setting because I think I've seen some examples of it working, but maybe not as fast as like as a Panasonic lens.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it to really focus at all. Maybe it's just my setting. I don't know. Yeah, it's not doing it. Oh yeah, and then I just turned the AF off and on the lens, and now it's just locked up. Like the image is just the same image that it was when I switched it.
Oh, so in other words, you probably have to power it down and start all over again.
Yeah, so I'm gonna unscrew it.
Yep.
Unscrew the front, and that's how I get it to work.
I think I've heard of that happening.
Yeah, it's still doing it. So I feel like there's something still not compatible with this. Like I wouldn't want to have to do this in the field.
Right.
I would just want to have it work.
Sure.
So okay, so let me see. This first sequence I did was I have the front of the lens slightly unscrewed, and then the power's off on the camera, and I'm going to turn the power on, and I get this focal length setting. It says current focal length setting, 35 millimeter. Change the setting. I'm going to say no, and then I'm going to, and now it's so the lens still isn't powered on, and now I'm going to turn the lens into the metabones, and that still made it lock. Okay.
Did it lock up?
Yeah, it locked.
It did?
Oh, wait. Now it's come back. No, now it's locked again. It's funny because all the other indicators are working, like the level.
Right.
You know the level thing it's on, and the histogram, and other stuff. Although the histogram seems to be kind of stuck too. Weird. Yeah, not reliable.
Huh.
I'll have to look. See, this is what happens when you demo stuff live for the first time.
Right.
on
Well,
your podcast.
I think that's what the Tech Move podcast is really famous for. Is to do all these trial things on air, which is really exciting. So.
I just turned the power off and on. Now it's working. I just briefly turned it off and on. Oh, and it just locked up. Okay, so. Okay. Well, anyway, aside from this little test just for you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
One of the reasons why I probably will maybe just use native lenses with it. Much more reliable.
So when you say that, what Panasonic lenses do you still have, or do you actually have Olympus lenses, other Micro Four Thirds? What else do you have?
I just have. I basically have 3 compatible lenses. I have. They're really nice, really beautiful 12 to 35 made by Panasonic.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the 2.8, very clear, sharp very small.
Yeah.
I also have an Olympus, I think 7 to 14 or something, very wide.
Right.
Very nice lens as well.
Which,
That's
if it's a 7 to
constant.
14, that'll probably be like a 14 to 30 or something like that.
Yeah, still
32.
pretty. Yeah, 14
Pretty
to
good.
28, so it's still pretty wide.
Yeah.
And now that with the built-in image stabilization on the camera, it makes that lens more useful because that doesn't
Yes.
have image stabilization. And then I have the original kit lens that came with my
Right.
GH1,
Right. Right.
which is still usable. It's just probably not the best lens. But so I just have those 3 lenses. But I may get some other lenses. There's not a ton of them out there.
Well, there's that one, and I'm surprised you never bought it before, but I guess because you never really stuck with Micro Four Lens. But that Voigtlander, remember that one?
But
it's,
you know
it's a
what?
.95.
I know, but I'm just not crazy about it.
It's supposed to be a little soft on the edges.
Yeah, I feel like it's soft, and I feel like I can just, if I really want that lens, I can just adapt.
Like a speed booster onto it. and
Yeah,
get
put a
pretty
speed
close.
booster onto one of my thousands of Canon
Yeah.
lenses.
Yeah, that's
It'll be
probably-
bigger than the Voigtlander because the Voigtlander I think is pretty small.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the
I actually
Voigtlander's-
thought the Voigtlander was very close to that of a Sigma art lens, but I'm not
Oh,
sure.
really? That big?
I
Yeah, I don't-
kind of thought. I mean, like, because Voigtlander has, I think they have a zoom that's .95, but we're easily talking a couple of years ago.
I see.
So,
Yeah, there's a few primes. There's quite a few primes for the Micro Four Thirds. I'm just not. I don't know if I want to invest in those. I could just use a passive adapter and one of my manual like Rokinons or something.
right.
And I still get some really nice lenses. The speed booster, yeah. I mean, I have to figure out the speed booster thing, the issue that's happening on my lens, and make it at least work.
Yeah.
Maybe if I just have it half, not engaged, so it's just fully manual.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, no. Probably with the Rokinons it would work because it doesn't have any electronics, so it probably just wouldn't. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't lock up or anything. It would just
Right.
act as a speed booster. But and with the Rokinons, all the controls are on the lens, so you don't need any electronic control like you do with these Canon lenses. So anyway, but so aside from that, as far as what do I think of the camera?
Yeah. At this point, I know that you've only had it for a few, literally a few days now.
Mhm.
You haven't probably had a great chance to really take it through the paces, but
No.
thus
The
far,
first-
your thoughts.
Well, so I had this event on Sunday, and just a couple days ago, and I took the GH5 with the native 2.8 lens, and I just kind of handheld and shot throughout the event. I was actually kind of like the MC and host of the event too, so the footage is really bad, but
Sure.
as far as being shaky and
Well, I mean, just literal run and gun.
yeah, pretty much. The stabilization though worked pretty well. It's got in-body stabilization and it can couple with the on-screen. The lens stabilization, and so it actually, and then it can also have electronic stabilization added to that.
Mm.
So with those 3 things kicked in, it's pretty smooth.
That's
Kind of
pretty
like
good.
gimbal-like, although you might not be able to tell from my footage. So that part's really good.
Okay.
I did everything in vlog because I wanted, because the reason I feel like the reason for, if you want to do any kind of log format, it's way better to do it in 10-bit than 8-bit.
Right.
Because you're going to have to grade it anyway. But if you want to bring anything, move stuff around, bring stuff out of the shadows, change exposure, especially in the darker parts, you really want to have a log format, because if you don't, you're going to get a lot of artifacting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kind of banding and other weird things that happen. And also it's got 422 color space, so it's pretty deep, rich color information.
Mm-hmm.
And then I recorded at 150 megabits per second, so it's fairly healthy codec. Still long up, it's MP4, H.264. So, and I felt like when I was grading it, I graded in Premiere Pro with the Lumetri color, which is a great coloring system.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to use and quick. It uses the GPU's acceleration. I actually was really pleased with that. Actually was really I could notice the difference between the grading results between grading that and grading 8-bit footage like from my A7s.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like I could really manipulate the image a lot more,
Okay.
and then I needed to, because in this situation it was kind of a weird situation. It was a party, and it was outside, but then a lot of it was under this big shade gazebo.
Sure.
So you had this kind of shady, dark area, and then
Yep.
this really super bright outdoor
Yep.
area.
And then if there's concrete out on the floor, it's reflecting right back at you, and it's
Yes.
this whole thing.
Yes, it's just a dynamic range nightmare.
Right.
And that's where you need log and where you need 10-bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so supposedly with V-Log, the camera gets to 12 stops of dynamic range. And that's actually pretty good. That's getting into HDR territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was able to pretty much capture everything. All the highlights, all that super brightness, and the super kind of darkness of the shade.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a variable ND or any kind of ND on it, so I was shooting really stop down. So there's not much demonstration of shallow depth of field.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a variable ND for this lens, the 12 to 35.
Mm-hmm.
So I just ordered a what's supposed to be a good one, a Tiffin variable ND that'll fit it, and we'll see how that goes. So I can get better shallow depth of field outside. And I had it stopped down, and I also had the shutter speed kind of high, so it's definitely not cinematic
Right.
settings.
Okay.
But regardless of that, it was more for the dynamic range experimentation, and I was really had a pleasure grading it.
Really?
I didn't, yeah, and I felt like I could really super manipulate the image and not have it go bad. I felt like I had a lot of room to push stuff around, way more than the other footage that I usually shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so that part was really cool.
That's great.
That felt really good to me to be able to do that
Yeah.
for such a small, light little camera.
And so your thoughts on that type of file versus the stuff that you get out of your Sony material? What did you think?
Okay, so jury's out on whether it has the same beautiful image quality that the Sonys have. Not sure if it does or not. I noticed a little bit of that still Panasonic graininess,
Mm-hmm.
but that could be alleviated with some settings like turning down the sharpness in the camera and other things that I haven't done anything. It was just all stock.
Mm-hmm.
So
you pretty much had it at factory settings at that.
Yeah, I just did Vlog and I didn't change anything else. I felt like it was more cinematic looking than the GH4. I felt like it had more velvety feeling, like the sensor was better quality.
Oh, that's
like the
good.
processing. Yeah, I felt like the sensor and processing was better quality. I don't know if it's quite as velvety and silky and beautiful as the A7s, or probably the A6500. I don't know if it's got that level of quality. I still have to experiment a little bit, but just my impression in looking at the footage was that definitely better than GH4, maybe not as good as the A7 in the stock settings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but maybe doable with some tweaking on the custom settings on the camera.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think, as a B camera and as an overall versatile camera, like maybe for green screen to get really sharp, good keys because of that 422 and the 10-bit
Mm-hmm.
in 4K, that sounds like like a no-brainer. Better than my FS5,
Wow.
right? Because my
Wow.
FS5 is only doing 420 color in 8-bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm pulling okay keys with that. If I did
Right.
use this camera, I think it's going to be better than the FS5 image-wise.
So, for you to tell that difference, do you need to actually set up the GH5 in optimal settings and then try it like during a real shoot, and then you'll have an answer as far as whether or not you think it will work to the level of of cinematic footage?
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do a shoot in Las Vegas soon. This is not the NAB. This is like a week before, ironically, but
Sure.
but I'm going to Las Vegas for a client
Okay.
shoot, and it's a really simple shoot. It's going to be like a green screen, I think. Just bring a camera and just set up an overhead mic and just these interviews with some of their customers and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'm going to do is maybe have the GH4 and my FS5.
You mean the GH5?
Sorry, GH5. Yes.
Right.
I'm gonna have the GH5 and the FS5 running simultaneously,
Oh, okay.
and I might just I might have not too different of an angle,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna see how well they do image wise, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll be a really good test, and I'll have the FS5's footage I know that I've shot a lot with that. I know how it works. I know how to key it and all the things to get it to be good. But then I'll have this additional GH5 footage, and I'm going to see how it works, and that'll be a good comparison.
Good.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy I got it. I'm actually kind of excited about the GH5. I think it's in some ways quite amazing camera.
Well, I can't wait for the full review. I mean, I obviously have some, thoughts about that versus as it's, as I still think about the A6500. I just don't know if the GH5 has persuaded me to that, because to me, the GH5 seems more like a video camera. Even though I think you can pull some terrific stills like you did. You showed me some terrific stills, and they look great.
Well, you know what I did too at this event was actually set up a photo booth with a backdrop.
Okay.
And I used a flash. I have a couple external flashes that I can put on the hot shoe.
Sure.
And so I just used a pretty simple forward flash with a diffuser, and they came out really well. So I'm gonna send you those so you can check those out.
And you took those with the GH5?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just took like hundreds of photo booth shots, and they came out really well, really clear, sharp.
Oh, cool.
They weren't super cinematic because it's like it's a front flat flash on people, but
sure.
But people really loved them.
Okay.
And they're super sharp. So see what you think.
Okay, I will.
I'll Dropbox that to you since we have the Facebook issue. But
right, fantastic. Good. All right, well, Keith, I think that is going to wrap up this exciting episode, because I think what we need to do is we need to get you ready for NAB, and me, I don't know what I need to get ready for, but I'll get ready for it anyway. So, Keith, before we go on and close out this episode, let's remind the good listeners about where they can find us. Of course, you can find us on our website, which is techmovepodcast.com. And we also really would love for you guys to subscribe to us on iTunes. Search for Tech Move, right?
Yep. And search for Tech Move. And also, 5-star reviews are really important to us. They help with our sponsors. They help other people to find us and make the podcast more popular. So if you enjoy the podcast, if you get anything out of it, or even if you don't and you hate us, just go to iTunes and go through the laborious process to give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you.
And review.
Yes, thanks. We really appreciate that, folks, too. We do love that feedback. You can also find us on Facebook. I was going to say Fakebook. Facebook, Tech Move Podcast is where you'll get us. Twitter, @Tech Move Podcast. And you can listen to us on a couple of different platforms like Stitcher and Player FM. But most importantly also, Keith, why don't you share with the good folks how they can help support the podcast through our Amazon link?
Yeah, you can go to techmovepodcast.com/Amazon, and that'll just bring you right to Amazon, and then you can buy stuff, anything you want. Or you can just click on the links that are on our website and also get there. It's really easy to do, doesn't cost you anything, gives us a little bit of commission per purchase, and helps support the podcast, and helps pay for a very small, infinitesimal portion of the trip to NAB.
Right, and I think what it pays for is probably extra cassette tapes for the dictaphone that Keith is going to take to record some of these interviews. So
and extra ice on the plane.
Right.
In my drink. That's pretty much it.
Very good. All right. Well, folks, it is Tech Move, and Keith Moreau is NAB bound. Rod Louie is homebound. And we will catch you on the next episode where we have much more fun. We have much more news. We have much more controversy to get to, and that will be coming up whenever we get to recording it. Keith, thank you so much for being with me today.
You're welcome, Rod.
I really, really appreciate it. I really love doing this. So, folks, for Keith Moreau, I have been Rod Louie, and thank you very much again for joining us on this episode of Tech Move.